competition, and Collingwood at the moment are ninth. But the differentials in the things that, the tackles is not significant, I don't think, and the contested ball is not significant. So a lot of the inputs that we've been using to judge or evaluate a team's performance, and it's been very accurate at night, running at 96%, there is not a significant difference except in disposal efficiency. We would know that, we would see that and observe it. It'll be interesting to see how they win it. I reckon if Collingwood don't get enough, and they did this a few weeks ago against North Melbourne, they got smashed inside. And if you mightn't agree with this, Chris, but if anything is a clear indication of the attitude, what you're prepared to sacrifice and give, it has to be in that one element. You've got to start with the ball. You might muck it up after that, but if you don't start by getting at least your share, and I mean inside ball, and then you can take that on the outside. If you're not able to get it clear and get time and space to do something with it, your game is, and you often talk about it, sometimes it's better to start from defence and take your tackle defence rather than go down. I think your structure's what you want when you start in the middle. And we've seen some fabulous bits of footy of late where the ruckman's gone up, as you say in the old day, hit it down the road, but the Rovers kicked the centre forward and the centre forwards kicked the goal. I love that. We don't see it very often, but that's what we want. I reckon we'll get an unbelievably powerful contest at the start. I would be totally disappointed, and so will the supporters who've turned up, if it's a bit of we'll sense and feel for a while. We'll just, do the Boxers' first 3 rounds, just testing the leg out. They will be in it up to their necks, I would suppose, at the start.
I agree. They'll run out of the box like Jimmy Carruthers in South Africa when he won the title and throw about 170 punches in the first 1 minute.
Vic Dalwheel.
Yeah, that's right, Drew. And there's no doubt the pressure will go up in this game.
From what we've seen,
from what we've seen in recent times. Now, David, you're talking about field position of the ball is crucial. What we do know with finals compared to home and away games is that forward holding goals increase percentage-wise.
And explain that forward holding goal. So
that means you lose possession in your own forward 50, you win the ball back in general play and score a goal.
Which Collingwood were absolutely exceptional in their premiership year.
Well, they've been the greatest team of all time in their premiership years, so the forward line pressure will be crucial.
And here come the Pies, the first out onto the MCG. It's the quest to regain form at the most critical moment. Their best has been good throughout the year, but it's a little while in the past. And the challenge is very much with them as Nick Maxwell leads them out under the banner.
So the forward line pressure will be important, and that's why the selection may have changed, David.
Well, we're just indicating that Payne has gone out, a taller, reasonably athletic, but not a great chase-down defensive forward. Doesn't matter. He's all right on the way in, but not on the way out. And they replaced him with young Sinclair, who is extremely fast and good on the way out.
And you just wonder, David, whether that's played the major role with Cracker coming back in to the forward line. For Solo, he spoke today about his pressure measurements. Beams knows he has to step up. Going through the form of the Collingwood team, Daisy Thomas has to become an X-factor again. All the guys around the ball, particularly at the clearances, Swan and Pendlebury, arguably the best 2 together in the whole competition. They've got to get the ball into their forward half so then they can play the game on their terms. So I think the centre bounce is going to be the trump card tonight.
Can I be a smarty here and say, look, taking the midfield, which is going to be crucial tonight, and the rain's coming down now, so it's going to make life a lot difficult for all players. When you've got Burgoyne, Hodge, Sewell, Lewis, Mitchell, Rioli, I call them all inside players. You've got 5 out of the 6 of those in good form. We know they're in good form. You've got Alice, we're not sure about. Smith, good form. Suckling and Sewell. So 7 of their 10 midfield players we're going to rotate there. 10 we're going to rotate through. I see only 9 that rotate through for Collingwood, and only Beams. Pendlebury's been struggling a bit. You talked about Thomas been struggling a bit. So they've only got, I would have thought, 4 of their 9 or 10 players in what I would call normal good form. So you're carrying some unknowns about their midfield, which has been spread to the rest of their game. There's a lot of unknowns about Collingwood, and they might come to the party because they're all capable of doing it. But the current form overall and where the engine room is certainly with Hawthorn, even without even without Lewis.
Did you ever coach players of Thomas's capabilities that may have struggled for a little bit of form leading into finals, but then just willed themselves up a level to deliver in the big games?
I had a bloke called Wayne Johnson who played at Carlton, and he would stagger on through the season, and then he became the most prolific finals footballer of significant moments and significant games that I've probably had the privilege of coaching. He's one. And they just have an unbelievable belief, not an arrogance, but a confidence about what they can do when the pressure's on. There'll be a number bob up, Collingwood and Hawthorn tonight, that we've sort of underestimated, and they will go to a new level because it will demand it. I'm excited to see the kind of players who will come through tonight.
Hawthorn about to appear, and I hope the banner lasts long enough because the wind is having a decent rip at it.
It gives you a good indication, doesn't it, with the rain falling in various degrees of intensity, but bulging like a spinnaker is the banner as the Hawks head up the race. So this is going to be a difficult night to keep the ball on track, and so much of the Hawthorn game sits there.
And Gerard, you're absolutely right, and we continue to look at it. It looks okay for me when you look up in the light so you can see the drizzly rain coming down, slippery ball. The wind can get, your work here, Chris, and the wind can get round, it'll howl round in here, and your ability to anticipate, predict and trust is going to be limited. So if it does affect the team who expect to get the ball delivered, expect to kick it well, it might knock their confidence a lot harder and faster than it does with Collingwood, who are great users but might be more methodical.
So this is the Hawks out onto the MCG. Luke Hodge is the skipper. He's had a restricted campaign, but he's here at the business end, and the Hawks are looking to deliver against their flag favouritism to give themselves the softer road through and win directly into a preliminary final.
And the banner recognising Ben Stratton's 50th game and Grant Birchall's 150th, even though neither of them were first to burst through that banner.
They make amazing banners, Drew. It's absolutely incredible the way they set those banners up. Look, the pressure. I just wonder, David, the conditions you think would suit Collingwood's pressure game, if you like. But then there's a looks good theory in football. So you put the team out for Collingwood and say, geez, that looks good. But their form hasn't been great. And Schumacher's has had a good, the last two times Schumacher's played on Cloak, he did a good job. In fact, there was one game he completely towed him up. So Hawthorn will go in with that form of confidence. As I said, he's the avenue to goal. It really comes back to, can Alan Didak, can Sidebottom, who's been dominant in finals all his career, can Thomas become the Wayne Johnson of the Collingwood Football Club? Because they will need one tonight.
Well, the interesting one, you named Didak, and I think we've said that Didak's starting as the substitute, which is interesting for me. I thought his form over the last month has been half reasonable. I'm not sure that his fitness level allows him to play a full game, so they'll use him spasmodically on the basis that he'll contribute, but he won't be able to do it over the 400 minutes.
Well, they're showing confidence in Andrew Cracker, who played his first game last week after a knee reconstruction. What a comeback. That's within the one season. That's amazing.
Well, it is amazing, and they've done some amazing things over the last few weeks. We might say amazing, we might say desperate too. And I think a lot of the decisions of placement of players and playing players or not playing players have almost sensed in the football world, and it's not me but everybody else we talk to, that they're at desperation stakes because of what Gerard and Drew have both said, their performances over the last 5 or so. I couldn't believe what I saw against North Melbourne 3 or 4 weeks ago. They got 4 goals, 1-0 and kicked 4 for the rest of the game. That's not the Collingwood team that I know. And you're right, Daisy Thomas is a beautiful footballer, and he's trying hard. I watched him last week play, and he was putting in, but it just wasn't happening for him. Now, you're right, they can switch the switch or turn the switch, but it's pretty hard on a night like tonight against opposition like this to turn the switch.
And it is, and when the switch is on, you've got to leave it on for 4 quarters, because the confidence of the Hawthorn Football Club means they will not have a breaking point for the whole 4 quarters, whereas Collingwood, that lack of confidence is just developed by not being able to perform up to their expectations or compared to the better teams in the competition. If Hawthorn get away and blitz the scoreboard with some quick goals, Collingwood, it could just break the spirit. So Collingwood need to get off to a good start, and they need to maintain the pressure.
That's true. And Buckley was interesting. He was very calculated in his interview earlier this week by saying, it was pretty confident. I liked the way he said. I thought his media handling of difficult times, and he's had some difficult times, particularly earlier this year. And what he's been saying now is generally, don't want to underestimate us. We know we've got the players who've been down this road. I have great confidence they'll come to play, and anybody will have to play at their best to beat us. And I thought that's a very, very good attitude.
Give us an insight into Schoenmakers and Cloak. So, preliminary final night, Cloak gets hold of Schoenmakers. It turns the match. Schoenmakers, as you say, has played him twice since, and certainly in the most recent one, thrashed him. How's he feel tonight?
Well, look, man for man, I mean, Cloak is a dominant force on a Shoemakers when you just look at their physical makeup. And the guys that have really taken Shoemakers to the cleaners is when they've been playing in and around the 30-metre mark. Now, if Hawthorn get the ball into their forward line, that forces Cloak back out onto the wing to play up the field where Shoemakers would be a little bit more comfortable. They're very good, Hawthorn, at collapsing back onto Cloak. It can become a bit predictable, their ball movement, particularly when they're under pressure, and they are very supportive. Shoemakers will have confidence with the way he's played Cloak. Cloak will need to put another kind of one or two more tricks into his bag to be able to unbalance Shoemakers. But what will be so important is the midfield dominance from both teams. So Shoemakers will need the protection of his midfield, and Cloak needs to get good looks with his midfield. So there's a lot of factors involved, but Shoemakers will be going into this game with a fair amount of confidence, I dare say, David.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and I think he's the right person to start. If it doesn't work out, they're going to struggle. Birchall wouldn't go to him. Stratton might. I would think I would go to Gibson as the next best defender, and Gibson apparently has got a bigger tank than I thought that he had, so he could probably go on the run with him. It'll be interesting to see what they do in terms of a couple of matches. Franklin at the other end. I've just watched Franklin work his way around the 50-metre perimeter. He's had 4 shots at goal on the run, on the arc, kicked the whole 4.
And did you see the trainers working on his hammies too?
He
had one trainer on each hammy, broke away from them and then started to kick goals.
Well, I was eating in Smith Street, and there was these 6 security guards that ended up they were practising their security guards for the police, and the guy I was with, I said, I think Buddy Franklin's coming in here. They are protecting him at all costs. One thing about the Hawthorn defence, David, they do go one-on-one. They can quickly collapse onto a target when the ball's getting moved in a predictable fashion, but they don't let teams have high half forwards unmarked.
No, that's true.
So they'll collapse when there's a long ball coming in, but they will also have an opponent as they collapse. But they won't drop an extra man. They don't play a 7-man defence. They just don't do that.
No, they did in 2008 though. They're not doing it at the moment when Hodge went back. Now the argument is now, will Hodge go back and become a defender in the sense, and he's smart enough to read it, or will Murphy come in and take Guira's spot? I'm fascinated how they're going to structure up at the start to replace Guira. Just 1-for-1 with Murphy, or they're going to get a bit smarter and say, well, Hodge is a good general across there. He can half do that job and maybe assist the defence as a whole.
Yeah, look, I think Hawthorn pretty much want Hodge in and around the ball as a midfielder, particularly early in the game.
With Lewis being out.
But isn't it amazing that Alice, who was so fantastic in their premiership win and has been in and out of the team, all of a sudden, just watching the way they practice their stoppage work, he's going to become a key player in this whole setup, because he's going to assume a fair amount of the responsibility let go by Jordan Lewis now.
This is a final, so we're going to get the anthem, and the teams are going to line up right in front of the commentary box.
They do know each other well in these scenarios. It's just not that long ago they stood here on preliminary final night on the members' wing, stared each other down, and then played for 2 hours like you would rarely forget. Down to join the AFL's Master of Ceremonies at ground level, presiding over affairs, will be Craig Willis. Just awaiting the all clear. There it is.
The Australian Football League and Premier Partner Toyota welcome you to tonight's first qualifying final here at the MCG. Would you now please join with the coaches, players and umpires as we stand for the Australian National Anthem.
That is the sound of September when it rings out at the MCG with that huge roar at the end, and the hopes of both sets of fans invested heavily in it. Hawthorn and Collingwood in a qualifying final. In the front row for us tonight is Adam White. Hello, Whitey.
Hi, Jared. I say it every year, but there's no place I'd prefer to be than sitting on the boundary when that national anthem is played. I reckon about 80,000 in at the moment, not a full house, but certainly a big crowd for this game against Hawthorn and Collingwood. The all-important conditions. Now, it has been wild in Melbourne, the weather over the last couple of days, but I would argue that it was windier this time last Friday night for the Hawthorn West Coast game than what it is at the moment. Certainly the wind is not as strong as it was a couple of hours ago. Just a few light showers in the half hour in the build-up to this one, so the ground is going to be greasy, but certainly, really, the conditions are good for football, so Hawthorn's skills won't necessarily be affected like we all thought they might be. Nick Maxwell has won the toss. Collingwood will kick to the city end. Enjoy the call, boys. It should be a ripper.
I've just seen it first, Jared.
Yes.
The three elements of the Hawthorn team had their own huddle. Forwards, mids and backs had our own tight huddle, as you would see the team as a whole, which Collingwood did from the word go. Now they've moved from their smaller three groups into one tight huddle before the game. It's the first time I've seen that in footy. I mean, I did hear what we have in a final like this. We didn't quite get to the last stanza. A game that's big and as important is for Collingwood Hawthorn. We don't want to hear the rest of the national anthem.
No, you usually see them break into smaller groups in the club rooms before they come out, but each of the areas do have their own individual KPIs as a group, and they rely so heavily on each other. So there was just a reminder there before the start of the game, and then of course Hawthorn did come in as a group. But
it's the massive change, isn't it? We talk about teams being 22 players, but the reality they are three distinct small teams, but they've got to know each other intimately.
Absolutely.
Understand the idiosyncrasies, what they can expect in this situation. It becomes a critical element.
Look, and we talk about contests and ball movement and derailing ball movement. Depending on where you play on the ground, it's a completely different skill set. The defenders are going to kick the ball differently to the forwards. There's going to be the clearance guy specialising there. There's going to be different type of derails or defensive mechanisms put in place depending on the area on the field. So they are a team within a team.
So here we go.
So they are a team within a team.
So here we go. The first qualifying final. Dust up on the wings. Shaw and Ellis into each other already. It's Hawthorn and Collingwood on Grandstand AFL. And you are with Drew Morphett.
Pendlebury, Beams and Swan in the middle for the Pies. And we got Mitchell, Hodge and Sewell for Hawthorn. It's won by Hale down to Mitchell. He gets the first kick of the game, Sammy Mitchell, up towards half forward. O'Brien might have been held by one arm. He goes to ground. No chance of picking it up out of there. But Maxwell does and gets a kick away about 2 metres. And they just come in from all directions. A tangle of arms and legs. And the umpire thought was going to have to ball it up. But eventually it comes out to Wellingham. He gets the hand pass back to Pendlebury, who kicks up towards centre wing. Bunted forward for the Hawks into a bit of space. Grabbed there by Hodge. He comes back. Burgoyne, beautiful pass straight up the ground. Mark's taken by Smith inside the square. He puts it out to the new man. Ellis pokes a short pass, and the mark's taken by Rioli. 30 metres from goal, not far off centre.
Burgoyne's got Wellingham. He's just going off for his first. That didn't take long, did it? Stratton's got Fasola. I think, yes, Gibson has Dawes, that's correct. And Schoenmakers has gone to Cloak. I think those were. Beams got Mitchell at the first bounce.
We often see players push each other around before the game, but there's a little bit more spite in those efforts before the game then, David.
Tarrant and Franklin were at it as Rioli goes for the goal and misses to the right-hand side with a shot. He really should have started the Hawks off in a positive fashion, but a behind only after a minute and 20.
Michael Osborne's words are ringing in my ears already.
And it was windy last week, and it seemed to be this end.
Yeah, it did.
That had the issues.
Maxwell's on the long kick in out of the punt road goal as far as he can, and Jolly is able to take the one-handed grab. He feeds it off to Shaw, who came dashing by up to the wing where Cloak is all on his own. He'll wheel out onto the left boot and hoist it up to the 50 with a shocking kick, and he put it straight onto the chest of Hodge, who won't waste any time on the way out. Picks off the short pass to Suckling, drags it out to the members' wing for Gunston. Rioli trundles forward to the middle. Swan is trying to keep up with him. Johnson's the coverage man. Gunston's going to kick it in that direction. Rioli trying to get back off Johnson, and he does to take the mark. There is still a fight going on. Franklin is wrestling rather than leading. The kick goes in the rough head direction. Swan gathers against the boundary. Brown was dispossessed. Hard ball to win in the pocket. Tackles are laid. The ball is lost.
I'll tell you what, Chris Tarrant is so fired up. He is getting stuck right into Buddy Franklin. They've had two big wrestling acts and he is physically belting him at every opportunity.
Yeah, they've got the blood pumping already and have been nowhere near the ball. From the ball up, a chance for Roughhead, but it's gathered here and the hand pass comes to Swan of Collingwood. He clears them out of defensive 50. Cloak short of the wing. Good ball put on by Schoenmakers. And diving across the legs in front was Murphy, who's celebrating his return to the side, playing just his 5th game of the year. Well played by Tom Murphy at centre wing.
And he's the bloke at back. He's the bloke who's taken Guerra's spot in the back half at the moment.
At the throw-in, Jolly claimed front position and won the tap, but he's knocked it straight down to Mitchell. Had a devil of a time getting hold of it, but he gets through the pack. He avoided the tackle of Blair and kicks up to half forward. Roughhead jumped early. They all made spoils against him. It takes a Hawthorn bounce, though. Gunston got it out to Whitecross, who kicked it. Not out on the full. It was touched off the boot. And it'll be thrown in the left forward pocket. Adam White.
It is
Franklin off for a break. He's tired, but it's because of his wrestling, not because of his leading.
Throw into the forward pocket for the Hawks. Jolly wins, but it goes goalwards. Taken by Roughhead. Hand pass into the corridor. Sewell snaps and misses to the near side. Another behind of the Hawks. They're 2 behinds, both gettable, although that was in a hurry by Sewell. Collingwood yet to score. Nearly 4 minutes played.
No, he should have kicked it, Drew. You're right. He turned, had time and space, missed what he should have got.
Again, long kick in the side bottom direction. He didn't mark, and he's got Rioli to deal with, paddling out against the boundary. He won't keep it in. It gets away and out of play.
And the game is being played in Hawthorn's front half, and the vulnerabilities are Tuvey on Rioli, O'Brien on Popolo. I mean, those guys cannot hold those small forwards.
So Reed's got Gunston at the moment, and Brown is on Roughhead, who's at full forward. Jolly put it under the pack for Pendlebury. High kick around the wing. Wellingham didn't get hold of it. Takes a Hawthorn break. Stratton used Murphy. Mitchell got sat on. It had to be high contact, and it was.
It is on. It is furious. Away from the ball and in the play itself. It is unbelievably furious.
Mitchell, centre wing, Great Southern stand side. Short pass into Burgoyne. Further pass across the ground. Comes to Gibson. And they've worked it towards the broadcast side of the ground to Schoenmakers. On the logo, left centre wing. He has a bounce and kicks a delightful ball inside the 50. Interference before the ball got there by Maxwell on Whitecross, and Whitecross has gone down hurt. It's gone out of bounds. It's going to be a throw-in right over the top of the corpse who is Whitecross.
Yeah, he's done his knee, I think. He's real trouble. Real trouble.
Well, this is shocking news for the Hawks, who've come in with hamstrings to Lewis. Late exclusion from the side. Guerra from last week.
Stretcher it'll be, boys, I think.
Yeah, that's terrible. He changed direction. He propped to try and hold Maxwell off the ball, and I think it went that knee.
Well, it looked like his back groin. I'm not exactly sure what it is. They're carrying him off now. Can I just say that Collingwood's great strength and weakness is they don't tag the opposition's midfield. Hodge is starting on the ball and sweeping off everything. He's had plenty of possessions thus far. He's set up to have a huge influence on this game.
Whitey.
They've just dropped Brendan Whitecross, the trainers, because they weren't sure whether they had to get him through the interchange gates. I reckon it's a right lower leg issue.
At the throw in, the Hawks are in attack. Franklin's back from the bench, tried to get through the pack. He couldn't quite. Hodge, he was taken high by Shaw, and the umpire was on the spot to see it.
And they're all complaining. The Collingwood players are all saying, ducked his head, etc. All of them responded, and I think the film actually showed that. He's been having lessons from Selva.
Sure laid the tackle to hurt, though. This is on for young and old, this game.
Whitecross has been able to walk up the race after he disappeared from view, so that's a better sign than it was on the ground.
This is such an important kick, David. They're 0-2. It's 35 metres out. The captain's kicking for goal.
They've monopolised the ball, the Hawks. Now to get something from it. From 40 metres out, the skipper, that's no good. Takes a sharp veer to the left and misses by some margin. Shaw is into him again. It's 3 behind the Hawks.
This is ridiculous. Every Collingwood player is belting and jumping in and elbowing and hitting every Hawthorn opponent. It's just ludicrous. The umpire ought to start blowing the whistle and give free kicks.
Johnson kicks in short. Reed still in the back pocket, takes the mark. Now he goes longer over half-back flank. Double fisted forward by Stratton. Comes Collingwood's that way though. And it's cleared by side bottom, close to the boundary line, and over, just over the wing, southern stand side.
Stratton should have marked that ball, David.
Yeah, double punched it. That's not a good indication of confidence, is it?
No.
Possessions are 23-12 in favour of the Hawks.
And it's 3-0 on the board. Side bottom, he got stung in the tackle, lost the ball. The Hawks come up with it. Hale to Ellis. The kick up in Franklin's direction. He's with the flight. It clears him. He tried to take it on the bounce. Tarrant wears him close. Tarrant goes to ground. Franklin gets it. Great hand pass to Puopolo. Runs on at goal and misses near side. She had Gunston at the top of the square who was screaming for it unmarked. Puopolo went the Hollywood kick. They're 0-4 to nothing.
Ridiculous. He should have run all the way. He had a clear passage in front of him.
Pendlebury marks the kick in. Hugs the boundary line with a kick towards half-back flank. Wellingham in front. And the mark paid to Wellingham. He didn't hold it for a long, long time. Just below us. He kicks up towards centre wing. Dawes back in the action. Having missed last week. He marks. He hand passes the side bottom. The kick wide. Too close to the boundary line. And at the feet of Fasolo, who couldn't control it. It's out of play. Near the Collingwood forward 50. They haven't been this far forward since the game started. 8.5 minutes played.
Dawes, good work up. Good mark. Very good start.
At the boundary throw in. Collingwood's ball. Exchange of hand passes. Swan from outside 50. He kicks to a protected goal square. And it's knocked through by Cloak. Collingwood get their first score. It's 4 points Hawthorn, 1 point Collingwood. Adam White.
There's a lot of activity down here. Sam Mitchell got hammered earlier by Steele's side bottom and was down for some time after that contest. He's up at the moment, but I wouldn't say he's 100% fit.
Burgoyne to kick in, and Gunston has made the long lead to be in the defensive 50. They're all man, one-on-one, wherever Gunston looks, so he'll kick it around the wing. Jolly and Hale set themselves. Brown comes over the top to make the defensive spoil. He got hold of the ball. Roughhead took him to ground. Pack formed, Collingwood free kick.
Well, that was unlike Hawthorn in their ball movement. They had enough players to horseshoe that around the back half and didn't have the confidence to do it and kick long down the line and created a turnover.
Brown played on, hand pass to Pendlebury, kicked to Cloak. He got rid of Schoenmakers. He couldn't take the mark. Schoenmakers got hold of the footy and they hit him hard in the tackle. Dawes dispossessed him. Blair's trying to get through. Hand pass near Cloak. Beaten to it by Gibson. Frenetic stuff in close. Bruce's hand pass was no good. Wellingham crunches the pack. Gathers the footy. Cloak's fighting in the back play with two defenders. The ball is still live, barely 15 metres away. O'Brien got it off. Jolly ran straight into Hodge. They didn't worry about the footy. They dragged each other to the ground to wrestle.
Luke Hodge is an absolute superstar.
Oh, they're going at it like animals.
Ridiculous. This is...
Wow.
Finally a free kick.
There's a hard edge to this game.
Well, thank goodness the umpire reacted as he should have in the finish. This game will get out of control if they don't start blowing the whistle early.
Free kick to Birchall from all of that. He kicks into the centre square, off the left, running onto it is Gibson. He paddles to his own advantage. Beautifully played by Gibson, and he kicks out wide the half-forward flank. Savage just on and takes the mark about 75 metres from goal. Hawthorn 4 behinds, Collingwood 1 behind. Kick by Savage, high to full forward. Hale is there, hands to it but no mark. Rioli a chance to rove. It squirts towards the goal square and cleared out of defence by Maxwell for Collingwood. A high ball only to the 50. Punch forward for the Hawks, now to 45 out. Roughhead lays a tackle. Tarrant tries to hack it out of the air, missed it. It's still there. Sewell a hand pass. Back to Hodge. Hodge gave it up to Cracker.
Cracker kicks in a hurry around the wing. Cloak, torn jumper and all. Gibson gets a fist in there. And he paddles toward the boundary. He's outnumbered and overworked. Wellingham gets it. Gives it to Cloak. Kicks blindly forward. Cracker rushing at the pack. Did enough to run interference against Murphy. At the drop, it's kicked off the ground by Stratton as far as Ellis. He's in the tackle of Fasolo. He released it before the umpire could reach for the whistle. Sewell is buried by 2 and 3 tacklers. And there it lies on the wing. Adam White.
Amazing footy down here, but while that's all been going on, Shane Savage is into the game. They didn't muck around Hawthorn. Brendan Whitecross subbed out with that injury.
So the margin for error for the Hawks with an injury inside the first 5 minutes of the game is narrow. Jolly won the tap. The ball skittles along the turf as far as Johnson, and he got claimed high. No free kick. Oh, well, it was paid by the umpire 70 metres away, and we called it from 100 away. How the bloke on the spot missed it is a mystery to all.
Terrible miss. The umpires have got shot too.
Ben Johnson kicks to centre half forward for Solo in front. Can't take the mark. Little bloke tried to stretch, but it comes back to him just outside the 50. Gets right boot the ball. Cloak in the chop here, close to goal, but it's smashed away by Gibson, who started like a house on fire, and the ball's out of play alongside the behind post.
I'll tell you what, if the umpires don't take control of this game, you won't see them in the preliminary and grand final. So they've got some pressure on them to pull this kind of behaviour up off the ball.
Roughhead uncontested in ruck. Sewell, hand pass, and the kick by Ellis slews out of bounds, but it was smothered, and we're going to get a throw in. Hawthorn 4 behinds, Collingwood 1 behind.
Useless waste of energy by all players. The game will fall away dramatically after half time because of the energy that's consumed in doing non-constructive things.
Dawes wins the tap. Swan got the footy under the pack. Hand pass to space. Johnson gets to it. No passage to goal though. Has to hand pass hopingly, and it's cut off by Mitchell. He works it out to Savage. Puts it outside the defensive 50. Burgoyne's got 2 to beat. The odds weren't with him. It was gathered by Blair. He's kicked for Swan. Gibson again. He's been everywhere that's counted so far. Just off the footy, there's an umpire involved with Savage and Pendlebury. There's no free kick as a result. Just told to cool their jets. Thrown in half forward for the Pies. Dawes down to Pendlebury. Thomas back to Dawes. Now to Johnson. Over to Beams. He'll swing it to full forward. Shaw sets himself. Got his hands to it. Couldn't pull it in. Puopolo to Stratton to Schoenmakers, who kicks it 70 metres deliberately out of bounds.
No, okay. The umpire plays that.
That is ludicrous. He was under pressure. Kicked the ball down the line.
He was hit as he kicked. That is a foolish decision.
Well, let's dob them in. The umpires are Matthew Nichols, Simon Meredith and Shane McInerney. Good luck, lads. The kick inside the 50. Gibson with a spoil again. Helped further up the ground by Ellis. Hasn't cleared the 50 just as yet. Here's Gibson once more. Gee whiz, he's playing a game. He gets the hand pass away. Here come the Hawks into open territory. Bruce just forward of the wing, Great Southern stand side with Maxwell. He kicks inside the 50. Smith is there. Good spoil by O'Brien. O'Brien lost sight of the ball. They're still contesting. 40 metres from goal. Bruce paddles the ball in. It comes to Bruce. Off Smith. Hand pass and Smith dropped it. Oh, it's hot. Comes to Pendlebury of Collingwood. He clears outside defensive 50. Just gets boot to ball. Short of the wing. Cloak is there with him. Schoenmakers. Cloak gets some support from side bottom. He kicks the ball to touch.
Good decision.
The whistle's gone, and it is going to be a free kick to Collingwood just behind the wing.
Yeah, Scragged in going for the ball. That was a good, clean call early, as it should be. They're just missing those things. Umpires are struggling as the players are under the pressure that's being created.
We haven't had a goal in 15 minutes. It's 4 behinds to 1 behind Hawthorn.
Side bottom sends it inside the 50. Close got the field to beat. Gibson again got his fist on it, punched it away and saw it out of play.
If you've seen what I'm seeing, the ball is travelling significantly further towards Hawthorn goal in the kicks, and it's holding up quite strongly going to the city end.
50 from the Collingwood goal at that end. Dawes doing okay in the ruck. Wins it down near side bottom. Couldn't get it to his boot. Mitchell kicks it around the wing. A bouncing ball. Maxwell's in pursuit. Franklin kept away from it by Tarrant. The Collingwood skipper's got time to gather and pump it back inside. Cloak! Oh, it was a big leap. He didn't bring it down. Sinclair's hand pass picked off by Burgoyne. Jarred clear by Fasolo. Tidied up by the Hawks though, and they'll come out of fullback. Birchall has a bounce, ran into the pocket, kicked it as best he could. He needs Puopolo against O'Brien. Gunston punches it forward to the play. This is promising for the Hawks. Running onto it is Smith. He gathers cleanly. He has a bounce. Now a second. Reach half forward. Kicks inside the 50. It bounces twice in front of Franklin. Worked over by Tarrant. Got the all clear from the up. Maxwell's hand pass was only okay.
Comes to Sewell, gets the hand pass to Hodge. He's ripped to the ground by Reid, and the umpire is there to ball it up 60 metres from goal. Well, how Franklin didn't get a free kick.
Well, because he actually staged it. He actually ran back and pushed back into the player and looked like he's been pulled there. Replay shows that clearly. Umpire, great decision.
Here's the bounce. Rough head against Jolly. Comes to Sewell, who bangs the Hawks to full forward. It might go all the way. It pitches. Rioli's there. He runs onto it. He soccers and gets no distance from about 5 metres out. Kicked it about 2 metres. Cleared from the goal square by the Collingwood defence, and they've got out of jail again. Gee, that's misses the Hawks. Contest in the forward pocket. A real scrap. Don't know whether this is legal. Not sure it's football. Close to the boundary line. Bursting through Wellingham. Goes without it. Snapped by Hodge. And he's kicked the first goal of the game. It's taken 17 minutes.
Chris, I'm not sure about... I'm absolutely emotionally tense in my body here. I cannot remember either of my coaching days probably, but I can't remember sitting in the box doing commentary work where I felt so, and not because Hawthorn's involved, but I'm sensing what the players are feeling and doing out there like never before. This is just an unbelievable contest between 22 committed blokes are going like it. Unbelievable. I can't describe how the...
It has an edge to it because Collingwood think in current form they're not good enough, so we need to unbalance Hawthorn like no other club's done this year, and that's what they've endeavoured to do.
It's 1-4 to a behind Hawthorn's way. Swan out of the middle for the Pies though. High ball inside the 50. Dawes sets himself. Spoil made by Burgoyne. Jolly fumbled the crumb. Gets hold of it now. Cracker took it from his grasp. Great smother again by Burgoyne. It's gathered by Birchall and kicked in one hell of a hurry. It pitches out at half back. Takes a Collingwood bounce. Beams gets hold of it. Hodge hits him as he gets his kick into the pocket. Cloak again with 3 against him. Sinclair can't track it toward the boundary. It's out of play. Adam White.
Paul Puopolo came to the bench before. He got a corky. He got some treatment. He's come back on, but he doesn't look like he's moving overly well.
Right forward pocket for the Pies. Wellingham gets hold of it from the tap. He swings it at goal. It's there. Collingwood answers with its first. 1-1 against Hawthorn's 1-4. We've got 19 minutes.
Well, it's interesting, Chris, just to add something to that, they got into Alice because the structure was wrong. And structure went to the defensive side, would you believe, not onto the other side. So they had 3 defenders. Hawthorn could stop the goal. It came back towards the midfield. Wellingham got it in time and space to deliver the perfect finish. And it's funny, Sewell and Mitchell immediately not erupted, but went straight to Lewis and said that wasn't what we needed.
Yeah, look, there's been about 4 or 5 forward 50 ball ups and throw in, and Collingwood have got their hands in the ball first at all of them and have been tackled from behind, but on that occasion, no. It was a great goal by Wellingham. Snapshot.
Bounce didn't go very high. Jolly gets it to Pendlebury. He kicks to centre half forward. Dawes is there. A contest with Gibson, who's winning most contests, but it spills now to Dawes. Little hand pass back. Head comes to Blair, and he goes for the short pass and finds side bottom. Out wider, and still 45 metres from goal. Pass is good, and Sinclair marks. And he's wide as well, near the boundary line forward pocket, about 35 metres from goal.
Look, Sinclair's not a great kick for goal, but that kick to Blair didn't travel 15 metres, David. I can't believe umpires get that wrong.
Well, the momentum or the control of the game has just shifted marginally towards Collingwood in the last 3 to 5 minutes.
The Hawks lead 1-4 to 1-1. Sinclair to put the Pies in front from a tight angle. Oh, great kick.
Well, that's what you need, and he hasn't been a great finisher. I don't think that's been one of his credentials. I think 3 of the 4 shots which Hawthorn failed to kick, all reasonable, much easier than the one that he just put away.
Yeah, that's right. In these blustery conditions close to the boundary, a great goal kick there. But when we talk about momentum, what we're alluding to is having possession of the ball often, and Hawthorn had that in the first half of this quarter, or scoreboard pressure. Now, Collingwood's kicked 2 goals in the last 4 minutes, so when, David, you say they've got the momentum, they're hitting the scoreboard, and that's how you quickly get momentum.
Collingwood 2-1, Hawthorn 1-4. Time on now of the opening term. Jolly and Hale go at it in the middle. Jolly got his hand to it. Ellis sharked it, but his kick went nowhere. Beams gathers for the Pies. He sends it up to half forward. It's an awkward ball. Bounces over the top of Stratton. Sat for side bottom to deliver to full forward. Cloak was playing behind. Cracker coming through. Not clean with the first touch, and he bumbled it all the way to the boundary. Just a bit of rust. At his sharpest, he would have swallowed that up, Andrew Cracker, and had it through for a goal. Instead, they form up for a throw-in the right forward pocket. Jolly to the back. Mitchell was waiting for it for the Hawks. Hand pass wasn't the best. Suckling kicked in a hurry. Cut off by Thomas. Hand pass near Pendlebury. Slipped out of the Savage tackle. Works it around to Beams. High ball to full forward. Sinclair kept away from it. Gibson nearly spoiled his own man. Burgoyne down. Cracker tries, slipped under the pack, got it to his boot. It's going goalward. It won't quite reach. Ellis punches it through for a behind. It's the Pies by 4 points.
And David, Collingwood have come out with an aggressive attitude towards Hawthorn as the hunter, and all of a sudden they're in front 10 minutes ago in the first quarter.
Justifies.
All the players would be thinking, gee, our plans are working.
Yeah, justified.
And getting an enormous amount of confidence out of that.
Agreed.
We had a drizzly start to the game, but the rain has stopped, and the kick in by Suckling is good, and it finds Isaac Smith back pocket.
Yeah, well, he's taken his eye off the ball a couple of times. Not frightened. He just didn't look at it and control the ball, Isaac Smith, and didn't do what he should have done.
Kicks it a mile up towards centre wing. Bruce knocks to his own advantage, gets the hand pass to Puopolo. Hand pass actually to Puopolo. He handball to himself. Further hand pass to Bruce, who bounces and runs to 60 and kicks to Rioli, but it won't make it. And Tuvey gets back there in front of him and takes the mark in the last line for the Pies. Across the ground, it might be dangerous. Oh! Here comes Birchall. He puts the spoil on Blair. Birchall regathers. Wide out forward pocket. Unmarked in the goal square is Rioli. He marks, kicks and goals.
How good was Birchall's effort? I mean, he had to make, 35, 40 metres while the ball was in the air. It did hang a bit long. It killed who was on the end of it. I can't think who was on the end of it. Out here, was it two? No, it wasn't two. It wasn't. But whoever was on the end had to wait a long time. Birchall just made Blair. It was there. Just made the yardage. Terrific effort ball. Kept it in play. They controlled it. And here was Rioli sitting in the goal square because all his mates had gone to support the kick that should have ended up with Collingwood. Turnover there, and big turnover. Huge turnover.
Big turnover by Tuvey, but I want to mention the contested win by Bruce to get the ball into the front half.
Yes.
So all of a sudden the game's in your front half and you can take advantage of these turnovers. Terrific play by a number of Hawthorn players there.
Chris Connolly and David Parkin on Grandstand AFL. It's Hawthorn by 2 points from the centre clearance. It's hard to win. Side bottom got it off to Pendlebury. His kick flopped in short. Stratton marked and played on. He dashed back whence it came and delivered inside the 50. Rough head up. He brought it down for Franklin. Gathered off the turf. Worked the hand pass around. Rough head down from behind by O'Brien. No free kick. Bruce runs it into the open goal. And Collingwood players are screaming for the missing hold in the ball.
Yeah, but what did he do wrong? He went to kick the ball, got tackled, the ball fumbled out. There's no rule in the textbook that says that was a free kick.
I agree with it.
It's Hawthorn 3-4-22, Collingwood 2-2-14, 25 on the clock.
No, it's knocked out. Hit out in the tackle.
Surely making the play, you get that opportunity to back yourself in and get the benefit of the doubt.
But it's because that hasn't been played, Chris. We've got used to that now being paid holding the ball when it never should have been.
Yeah, good point.
The Collingwood players thought it was a free, and television pictures tell us that Nathan Buckley thought it was a free as well.
Well, for most part of this year, that's been played a free. I agree with Chris. That's the way the game ought to be played, opposed to making the play.
8-point lead to the Hawks. It comes to Mitchell. He's grabbed by Blair. Mitchell has it a long time. Play on. The hand pass comes back to Ellis. He kicks Hawthorn inside the 50. Rioli gets a touch and works it across to Gunston, who snaps for goal. An underground kick, and he misses to the left-hand side. Another miss that should have been a goal for the Hawks. They're 3-5 to 2-2.
And great coaching by the Hawthorn coaching staff to have Rioli one out close to goal, because Harry O'Brien or Tuvey, whatever the case may be, looked very shaky on him.
O'Brien is on kick-in duty. He'll clear the defensive 50 with the ball in the Jolly direction. Hale worked him underneath unfairly. So it's Jolly's free kick for interference as they set up to mark.
Good call, Jared. That's exactly how it was.
Oh, he's dinked forward to the play. He's set Beams a task here to go back with the flight. Coming out to make the spoil was Stratton. It fell the way of Ellis. He worked it around with Murphy. Back to Stratton. Now to Franklin. The Hawks up to the 50. It's a poor kick from Buddy. And it's easy meat for the Pies, who massed their numbers in defence. Tuvey. Oh, he gave it straight back to Franklin.
Well, Franklin had his first kick 10 seconds ago. Now his second kick to full forward. Getting back there is Swan for Collingwood. Hand pass back to Reid. He's buffeted by Bruce, and Reid kicks towards the touchline. Doesn't go out, so it can't be deliberate. It's kept alive on the attacking 50 for the Hawks. Puopolo tries a hand pass. Comes unstuck. He's grabbed by Blair. Two little blokes going hard at it. It spills to Sewell. Whistle's gone. Going to be a Collingwood free kick. unless the Collingwood fans think that they're getting a raw deal. The Frees are 6-3 in favour of the Pies.
First thoughts are always the best thought. They should have released a hand pass instead of, I think I'll make something better of this, and got caught.
Blair short. Kick is okay for Reid. At the defensive 50. Thomas is making the play at centre half back. Reid is going to go longer though, all the way forward to the middle. Fasolo has to try to take it on the bounce, and Gibson wears him close. Fasolo is good, clean hands to Dawes. Hand pass it off to Thomas, kick inside the 50, bouncing ball. Shaw is at full forward. Oh, he's been skittled by Birchall. He's still working a hand pass out. Sinclair off the ground, it rolls at goal and goes across the face.
That hurt Birchall as much as it hurt Shaw.
Oh, they're both counting their bones. 23-15, Hawthorn in front, Adam White.
Yeah, Heath Shaw does not look well at all, as we've got Nathan Buckley on the bench, spending a lot of time with his leaders at the moment.
Kick out of defence for the Hawks. Hale at centre wing, hands to it, but no mark. It's taken by Dawes. His hand pass doesn't go anywhere. Blair throws himself in really aggressively. It spills to Mitchell, out the back door. Hurriedly to Shields, who kicks out wide towards centre wing.
Surely out of bounds,
As much deliberately out of bounds as the previous one. This time it's going to be a boundary throw-in.
That is the worst decision of the 2012 season.
Hawthorn 3-5. Collingwood 2-3. Roughhead wins in ruck. Comes to Sewell, who gains about 40 metres with another touch finder just outside the 50 for a throw-in.
It was a big win, that clearance. Collingwood had 2 or 3 extra numbers around the ball.
50 out from the Hawks goal. Twirls its way back into play. He'd give it to Dawes from behind the tap, and he's got to follow up and do the work against Hale at ground level. It won't come out. Adam?
It's just really interesting, Jerry, watching Nathan Buckley's now speaking to Nick Maxwell about particular setups, whether it be at stoppages or from kickings, something he's not happy with, and he's trying to get the message to both Pendlebury and Maxwell.
About 90 seconds left in the 2. Dawes the tap, it straight to Roughhead, off to Bruce, inside the 50 for the Hawks. It's a bouncing, awkward ball. Franklin barging through, Puopolo gathered, snapped and missed. Hung it out to the right. He was barely 15 metres from the target. He's missed twice now, and he probably should have dobbed them both. They're up by 9.
Hawthorn are going to sit Harry O'Brien in their forward goal square the whole night. Great move, I believe.
Oh, sensational move.
Gee, Heath Shaw's in agony on the bench. Johnson kicks to himself and then hoofs it long. Oh, beautiful mark. No. One-arm mark taken by Wellingham at half-back flank.
How good was that?
Kicked a great goal earlier on as well. But his kick this time is poor, and Gibson chips in for the Hawks and takes another mark. He squares it into Hodge. Fires out a 20-metre hand pass straight up the ground to Sewell, who kicks long. Chance for Franklin, one out. But they come across in front, and Wellingham got a hand to the ball. Franklin got a hand pass out wide. A snap for goal from wide out. It's through from the boundary line from Savage, the sub, on in the first quarter, and he's on the board with a goal.
I was about to give him a massive serve, as Gerard pointed out, when I think Brewster was who had to go off the ground once before when there were people in the corridor and clear. In fact, he had a clear pathway to goal. He didn't take it, and I thought, here's another one who thinks he's Dacos. And he's done a Dacos a ripper. It's actually a fair bit of power over a fair bit of distance, and it did the right-hand turn right at the right time.
Phenomenal goal.
Yes, it was. In the context of the game, the misses are almost made up by one like that.
I think the skill of the players, the modern AFL player, that's not as low a percentage kick as you think, as long as they get balance to get a good look at the ball, purchase on the ball.
Bounce in the middle. Jolly clearly won the tap, but Ellis is disputing it at ground level. Sewell bowled over by Wellingham, who came in hard from half forward.
And Hodge has dropped off behind the ball just to wind this quarter down and make sure Hawthorn going with a significant lead.
Adam White.
Heath Shaw back on the field. He was almost picked up by Nathan Buckley on the bench and said, Heath, get back out there.
Secondary bounce was a while in coming. Jolly,
brilliant.
Perfect feed down to Swan inside the 50. Dawes propelled at it. All over him was Schoenmakers. He got away with it. Ball spills the way of Sewell. Stands in the pack. Hand pass wasn't great. Suckling stripped of the ball. Pendlebury to Shaw. Sweeping hand pass to Beams to try to open things up. He got it off to Dawes. He can't do much with it. Just back to Jolly. Hurried panicked kick inside the 50. Swan playing from behind. Couldn't jar it clear. Murphy tumbles it to the defensive 50 for Roughhead. Off to Mitchell. The Hawks clear the area, at least for a moment. Tuvey gets hold of it. Stripped of the ball. Puopolo held to a standstill in the tackle. Still managed to release it. Right on the side, and the Hawks were threatening to break forward on the wave. And the Pies would have been glad to hear the bell. Quarter time in the first qualifying final. Hawthorn 4-6-30. Neatly doubled Collingwood 2-3-15. The goal kickers Hodge, Savage, Bruce and Rioli for the Hawks. Wellingham and Sinclair for the Pies. The toll is significant. Brendan Whitecross was out of the game virtually in the first 5 minutes with a knee injury. Subbed out without hesitation, and his finals future is a little bit unclear. Quarter time, the Hawks by 15. This is Grandstand AFL on ABC Local Radio, News Radio and Grandstand Digital.
Beauty. I'm surprised he's had the courage, I'm not so courage, but to come out again and plead the fame. Quite a courageous act from him.
Hawks by 15. Into the second term we go on Grandstand AFL. High bounce, one down by Jolly. Trying to get through was Pendlebury. Ended up towing it the wrong way. Blair gets hold of it to try to make good. He didn't. Johnson fumbled. Paddled on by Puopolo. Cut off by Tarrant to Blair. He was down in the tackle by Puopolo. The ball spilled out. No call from the ump. And it is buried under those players to be bounced.
Can I say that's a repeat? The ball was knocked out in the tackle play on. That's twice they've done it tonight. I think there's been a look at that particular interpretation.
You should have told us all.
Yeah.
60 out from the Hawthorn goal. Ruckman wrestle. Hale cleanly down to Sewell. Gets his hand cleared it. Work the hand pass forward out near Shields or Franklin. Franklin paddles. Shields brought down Shaw. They muscle their way to goal. The Hawks here. Puopolo down in a tackle. Collingwood just holding up. Laying enough tackles to bring the ball to a halt for a moment. Blair winkles out some sort of kick. Cleared the defensive 50. Murphy went without it. He was pushed off it. Side bottom for the Pies. Hand pass to Pendlebury. Under fierce pressure from Sewell. Bounces it round the wing, but it's cut off by Gibson. He works it sideways to Mitchell. High back inside the 50 for the Hawks. They need a jumper. No, they don't. They just need a crummer. Gunston got it in gold. The defence all ran underneath the footy, and Gunston was the lone man at the back. The Hawks are stringing them together now. 5-6-36 to Collingwood 2-3-15.
It was interesting because they have isolated, didn't end up being totally isolated, but Rioli's isolated down there, and it came in such a way that Rioli had to jump like a forward. He got over the top of Harry O'Brien, a complete body lift over the time, got his hand, could have taken the mark of all time, dropped, and it was the taller forward, the leading forward, Gunston, who got onto it, but it was all caused by Rioli.
And that's what great players do. They just unsettle the whole back. They disorientate the whole defence, and he did it. And as you said, Gunston, nice screw kick around for a goal.
7 goals in the game, 7 different goal kickers. Jolly gets a hand to it in the middle, but it comes down to Sammy Mitchell, who wrestles his way free. Gets the hand pass back to Murphy. It's unreal, Mitchell. Murphy's kick to half forward, and Tarrant leaves the fighting alone and comes in and takes the mark. Kicks out towards centre wing. It's grabbed by Beams. Down the line he goes. Dawes is there. Can't mark low down. Stratton there for Hawthorn. A little hand pass underground to Rioli. Good hands by him out to Gunston. Rioli follows up wanting it back, but Gunston's kicked too far. The mark taken by Brown for Collingwood at half back. Hawks 5-6. The Pies 2 goals 3. Early going second quarter. Kick by Brown to half forward. Across in front, Hodge with a big smash down. Comes to Mitchell. Sidestepping, weaving. Delivering a good hand pass to Schoenmakers. His hand pass across to Isaac Smith. Back to Sewell, who's blindsided and caught by Shaw. Whistle's gone. It's going to be a free kick. Comes to Shaw inside the centre square. Too far out to score. Going to the windy end, but hard to kick accurately down there. But this time he does.
Good.
A beautiful kick. Lace out to Wellingham, who marks about 47 metres from goal.
It was a great kick, and Wellingham is he's done about a 400-metre sprint right around the front arc to create that space for himself, and he's working exceptionally hard. And that'll test him out with this kick being so fatigued.
Assisting Breeze, but maybe across him as well. He puts it out right, hasn't made the distance, off hands, and a snap from an impossible angle by Cloak, and he gets the goal from about a metre out.
Well, great presence of mind by Cloak because they all flew. Hawthorn, as they do on the goal line, they had 4 up and across, and they're smashing it. It dropped off the back. The bloke who was smart enough to read it in the air, say, well, one more is I'm not going to mark this. He was off the back. Terrific piece of play from a big fella to read it as well as he did, and then to finish on a sharp angle, close it was, but sharp angle. Wonderful piece of play by the big bloke.
3-3-21 Collingwood, 5-6-36 Hawthorn. 4 gone of this second term on Grandstand AFL. Still Tarrant and Franklin niggling at each other at the stop ball situation. Bounced in the middle, bit ungainly, but Hale got his hands to it. Sewell through the traffic. Did manage to work it clear. Off the ground went Hodge. Thomas trying to cut it off. Hand pass backward, but not to a teammate, so that's dangerous. Gunston tumbles it up near Franklin. Paddled it down to Roughhead. Offloaded it to Ellis. Pumped the hand pass to the square. Nobody home. Tuvey will get there first for the Pies. Out of fullback. He takes his chances through Wellingham, who boots it around the southern wing. Sinclair had to set himself against Birchall. Free kick against Birchall. Swan to claim the advantage. Hand pass to Jolly. Took a week to get it to his boot. It wobbles up to half forward. Dawes off the ground. Hand pass to side bottom. Screws it around and bounces it back to Dawes. 50 from a standing start. Cloak runs into the pocket and takes the juggling mark. He'll open up the angle. Cracker.
Well done. That was a terrific piece of play. Some great ball usage. I think the 4 consecutive kicks from all Collingwood, large and small, all advantaged their teammate, and now they're having a very straightforward, except Cracker's gone back twice as far from his mark as the mark is from the goal. That concerns me.
He kicked a goal on his return last week. Must deliver from 25. He nurses it home. The Pies put up back-to-back goals and pull the margin inside double figures. 4-3-27 to Hawthorn 5-6-36.
Yeah, look, great contested ball winning by Collingwood. Collingwood's ball movement isn't as fluent as Hawthorn, so to get the ball out of the back half needs to be won with contest, and they did that well on that occasion. Hawthorn just look a little bit more fluent, but what we are finding, David, whoever can win this centre bounce and get the ball in their front half has got a high chance of scoring, either from a crumb, a free kick, another contested win. It's very much a one-on-one game out there, so the gut running to create the overlap, to get the ball inside forward 50 is just crucial, and Collingwood did it really well then.
Rioli on ball for the Hawks. Comes out towards the wing. It spills out. And the kick up the ground by Hodge towards centre half forward. Excellent mark in defence for the Pies, taken by Reid.
They've won the ball 3 times across half back in the last 5 minutes.
It's been very good because Buddy, the ball was in the air long enough for Buddy to get there. He chose not to go for whatever reason.
Kick by Reid to the logo centre wing. Dawes in front. Good clasp on the ball and couldn't quite hold the mark. Hodge works hard underground. Gets the hand pass to Gibson. And they're just barrelling the ball forward until Johnson meets it front on and takes it back the other way for Collingwood. Kicks towards half forward. Knocked on by Sinclair. Inside the 50. First back there is Shields for the Hawks. On the turn, he kicks a dangerous ball. Marked by Fasolo just outside the 50. He centres the ball, but it's all Hawthorn in defence. And the mark taken by Ellis.
And some dumb usage, hasn't it, by both teams?
Ellis back to the wing. Gunston, the former Crow, can't mark under pressure from Maxwell. Maxwell wins the pill at ground level. Kicks back towards the 50. Ellis bunts the ball back. And it's done to Suckling, who kicks to half forward.
He's gone for Franklin, who's got 2 against him. Bruce is almost through the pack. He kept it in front of him. Swan worked him over. Clever stuff from the Brownlow medalist. Reid's hand pass, though, was poor, and Puopolo put him under pressure. Swan's going to try to win it back again, but this time he's over the boundary. He runs into Franklin, bounce off each other. And Tarrant is in to square the situation with the Hawk. Been in his face all night. At the throw-in, Roughhead clearly won the tap. Down to Mitchell. Feeds it out to Savage. Gives some ground to Sewell. Balked the first kick. Then gave it straight up to Thomas. He worked it on to Beams. Quickly to O'Brien. Down as he kicked it. Up the field it comes as a free kick to the Pies. Wellingham to take it. Defensive side of the middle. We'll square it off as a short ball. Gained the 20. Put Thomas into space. And he shorts it as well to Fasolo. Better on the usage this time as side bottom works to right half forward. Cracker made the dummy lead at the 50. Cloak goes deep. The kick comes shorter still to Fasolo. Still outside the perimeter. And now they need their targets to get back. Thomas takes the short ball, plays on, he's against the boundary. He guides it up for Shaw, who is buried away in the right forward pocket. But they earn the shot at goal.
Now, they'll all come up as 4 uncontested marks in a row, but they did have opponents, David.
They did.
So technically they are a contest not being formed by the Hawthorn defenders.
Couldn't cope with them. They got off the mark, accelerated quicker, and got the free ball.
It's a terribly hard shot when you play this wide. Shaw from the boundary takes his chances and misses the locks. Out of bounds on the full, all the way across.
Well, that was Malthouse football being played by Buckley. They were all round the boundary line. Gibson kicks in for the Hawks. Trouble, but the mark's taken by Suckling. Still deep inside defensive 50. Across he goes to Gibson. Look out, here comes Swan. He beats him to it. Knocks it down. Receives the handball. Swan in for the goal and hits the post from about 8 metres out. He looked at the gift horse in the mouth and said, no thanks.
Well, the kick by Suckling was a disgrace, and the finish by Swan also a disgrace. 2 league footballers who should do far better than that.
8 points is the margin. The kick in is a long ball to half back. It clears the ruckman, so it's all about the bounce. Blair is bustled over by Bruce to keep it in dispute, and Blair, they go at him hard. Rioli's trying to win the ball. Tuvey with a hand pass. Side bottom's brought down. His hand pass was poor. Stratton for the Hawks. Off to Mitchell. Running evasive action against the boundary was terrific stuff. Back to Stratton. Kick around the wing. Roughhead tried to play the body on Brown and has been penalised as such when Brown toppled over.
That was super played by Blair. He got poleaxed by Brewston, just kept his head over the ball. Bravo, Jared Blair.
Brown kicks to a 6-man contest. No marks. Suckling to Gibson to Sewell at the drop. The Hawks to the wing. Hodge got a bad bounce. Bruce took it. Hand pass to Hodge in close confines. He's dragged off it. Shields works it out. Suckling's hit hard by O'Brien. Downed in the tackle. Push in the back. Third man in was Wellingham, and he's been nailed for the push in the back.
Don't say it, David.
Oh, I won't. Right.
Don't say it.
We all reckon Collingwood have been the aggressors. The free kicks are 11-4 in favour of Collingwood.
Suckling again, unloads inside the 50. Big pack, punched out, it reaches the back. Shaw or Puopolo. Puopolo takes Sol. He took the tackle of Shaw, who patted for the boundary and gets it there to be thrown in.
That was more deliberate than the kick that they played before.
It was.
Goodness me.
36-28. Hawthorn lead by 8 points. Inside the 50. Clever little hand pass, side bottom, outside the 50. But Mitchell's in there fighting hard for the possession of the ball. It spills out wide. Taken by Thomas. Probably has to lift a little bit. Little hand pass away to Beams. Half distance pass, not good. At the feet of Fasolo, who runs the ball out of play.
I'll tell you what, Drew, the structure for both teams around that last boundary throw-in was poor. Fatigue has kicked in.
Oh, just right in the same thing down there.
Roughhead works to the front of Jolly and wins the hit out. It comes to the sub, Savage. Savage's kick inside the 50. Oh, Hale dives at it, nearly completes the mark. Not quite. Good pressure by Reid. And they work it towards the boundary line there, Collingwood, and win a boundary throw-in. Players with hands on hips taking in the big ones. We're only 13 minutes into the second quarter.
Hawthorn by 8. Thrown in there in attack. Pendlebury gets the run at the stoppage, though. He's held in the tackle as soon as he took possession by Roughhead. They roll around on the turf. The umpire circles, and there it will be bounced. Right forward pocket for the Hawks. Umpire having a look at Sam Mitchell, and he's going to send him off with the blood rule. Maybe a cut to the back of the head. Whitey?
Yeah, this is from earlier on in the match when he got hit high. He had come and got a little bit of attention, a bit of Vaseline or whatever it was to try and stop the bleeding, but he has been bashed from pillar to post down here at ground level. You can really tell how much he's really hurting with some of the contests he's been involved in.
He revels in it though, doesn't he? He's at the foot of packs and he wrestles his hands free to get a hand pass away. It's amazing.
He's in the Greg Williams class, I reckon.
12 disposals, 9 of them contested, Sammy Mitchell.
30 from the Hawthorn goal. Free kick in the ruck. Collingwood's way. So a moment of suspense when the whistle sounded, and we all looked to the umpire, who took his own sweet time to signal. It's Jolly's ball. He can bring the Pies out in the cloak direction. Schoenmakers with him cloak. Great hands in front. Went the whole way with Schoenmakers and beat him in the air. And his kick was intended for Beams, who was intent on going to the boundary and being subbed out rather than turning and seeing where the ball was coming. Murphy made the spoil and he put it out of play rather than taking the uncontested mark.
And Shaw came to him and wanted to tell him what a weak act it was, and the Hawthorn players backed up Murphy and got him out of there. Boundary throw in right on the interchange gate, centre wing. Hawks 5-6 lead Collingwood 4-4. Jolly to the front, shark by Ellis. A high ball towards centre half forward. Franklin, Tarrant with the punch, comes to the front. Blair is there. Beaten by Burgoyne, who soccers the ball away towards half forward flank. Bruce gathers, hand pass into Savage, cruises to 50 and kicks a magnificent goal.
He's a terrific young player, Savage, who has come into this team with the injuries that have occurred. But Tuvey is struggling down there on the smaller forwards. And we know Harry O'Brien has trouble, and they've got a real advantage in that area. And it's funny in big games how things can come back to haunt you. They can come back to haunt you.
Well, I think the point you made, though, Savage and Bruce together under extreme duress at the 15-minute mark of the second quarter, when a goal was absolutely needed by the Hawks, produced a fantastic combination act that got the goal. And he's an unsung hero, Bruce. And what I like about Bruce is his change of speed to create an extra number at the contest and have that break to get a kick off.
6-6 to 4-4. Dawes wins the tap, but it's hacked out of there by Mitchell, who's strapped up and back on the field. It bounced up at half forward. Collingwood had the numbers there. Worked off by Reid, and he uses it short to Blair. On the members' wing, he tried to guide that to Cracker. It was never really on. Murphy got in front to take the mark.
Well, it's good that he did that. That was a harder mark, and he held his line. Then Murph kept his eye on the ball and went for what he should have done the previous one.
Tom Murphy out of half-back for the Hawks. As far as he can in the Gunston direction. Punch was made by Brown, and it's seen out of play. Between the wing and half-forward for Hawthorn. Beyond the halfway mark of this second tee. Hoyt back into play. Hale claims front position from Dawes and wins the tap, but he's knocked it straight to Beams. Around the body with his kick. Shaw tried to trap it. Shields had him wrapped up from the moment he got hold of it. Murphy went in over the top as the third man in, and there it stayed.
There is mind games around the clearance. Sewell is trying to get to Pendlebury. Pendlebury's trying to shake it by going to Burgoyne. It does free up another Collingwood player. It looks like Swan at the moment, but there's plenty of mind games around the clearance.
Savage had a spell on the bench, but he's back now. Well, it's won by Mitchell. He gets the hand pass away to Ellis. Kick towards Franklin, who juggles and marks 52 metres from goal.
Take your time, son.
Runs around, opens the angle and bangs it towards goal and misses to the right-hand side. Hooked it back too far. That's his first score for tonight, coming off a 4-goal game last week.
Look, Chris Tarrant has knocked Buddy Franklin around, so that contested mark win was a big feather in his cap, and he'll be looking to go on with it.
Hawks by 15. Johnson on the kick in for the Pies. Cleared the defensive 50 in the Dawes direction. Ellis came over the top to make a really meaningful spoil. Maxwell gets hold of it. One step inside the boundary. He got floored by Hodge, who came up with it. Shark the hand pass. Kick to goal. No. Hit the post. She had had a good look. It would have been something quite remarkable. First he floored the skipper, then he intercepted the hand pass, whacked it onto the boot and missed by the narrowest possible margin. The Hawks by 16.
Not sure that Hodge will be able to keep up the application. He's not match fit, and he's doing a lot of midfield and back. Oh, he's on it again.
Oh, the kick in is not good, and Hodge dives forward to mark about 53 metres out from goal. Maxwell was captain to captain, and a short pass finds Rioli 40 metres out.
Well, how does that happen that Brown becomes Rioli's opponent? And they start together. They both read the play at the same time. Brown, 6'3", takes off and gets there 5 metres behind him.
Yeah, there looks to be confusion on that kick.
A lot of confusion.
So here's Rioli for his second goal. 40 out. And he's given it a bit of a left foot hook and misses to the right-hand side. So that is 1-2 for Cyril Rioli. And the Hawks are wasting chances. 6-9 to 4-4. Adam White.
Drew, Darren Jolly's had an extended break here. They can afford to do that with Dawes back into the team, but they're missing that long outlet kick with Darren Jolly not on the ground at the moment.
Johnson played on, ran the gauntlet, had a bounce and delivered it outside the defensive area. Pendlebury to Dawes and back to Pendlebury. They're nearly through the Pies. Off to Blair. His kick forward to the middle. Shaw against Shields. Shields made the spoil. Sewell arrived underfoot. Fed it back to Shields, who had a fumble. And there it ended. And his side bottom muscled it out of play. Shaw and Sewell are right into it. Shaw was the aggressor there. And we've got 6-7 men involved in the wrestle while the throw-in's on its way into play. And the Pies have got the numbers. Beams to Swan. Loose in the 50 is Wellingham. He can mark and go back and take his shot at goal.
Well, it ends up, Shaw's the high half forward. He wrestles Sewell. Ball comes into a clearance. Hawthorn's one of their gun clearance players not there. I mean, Collingwood could just say time and time again, David, they're winning these little things, so they're going to continue to do it.
Absolutely. It's there were 5-2 in the wrestling match, 5 Hawthorn to 2 Collingwood.
Wellingham from 40 delivers the goal for the Pies. And again, they're able to find one as things just threaten to get away. 5-4-34 Collingwood. Hawthorn 6-9-45.
Reminds me of the 1958 grand final, Collingwood versus Melbourne.
Yeah. Well, Melbourne people are still getting over that one, David.
Well, I was a Melbourne person in those days. I'm still getting over it too. It's exactly what happened here is happening
Collingwood
here
unsettled Melbourne, and Melbourne ran around trying to bash up Collingwood while Collingwood focused on getting the ball and getting easy goals like that clearance to Wellingham goal.
5-2 it was. The wrestling, when they peeled off, 5 Hawthorn players and 2 Collingwood players, and the other Collingwood players were totally and utterly free.
Hawthorn still winning the game though, 11 points the margin. It comes to Swan in the middle, and he breaks out with a massive kick. Breeze behind it to full forward, and the mark taken by Shaw right in front. There's been fighting and scrapping and up to all sorts of mischief, but now he takes a terrific pack mark 25 metres out.
And it was on Stratton. I mean, Stratton's would be taller, you would think, maybe stronger, and yet that was a magnificent effort one-on-one to take control of the ball in the air.
He's kicked just 8 goals in 18 games this season, and he's kicked another one here. 2 in a row to the Pies. They're coming back. It's Collingwood 6-4, trailing Hawthorn 6-9.
Look, we talk about risks in finals, a big risk taken by the Collingwood Football Club, the coaching staff. Heath Shaw is the number 1 rebounding defender for Collingwood. He takes all the kick-ins. All of a sudden we get to the final here and he's playing in the front half. Now, it can be justified that you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. You put the defence under pressure because the chemistry's lost, but he's taken a contested mark out of the goal square and kicked a goal. Now, the bloke that should be ashamed of himself, Stratton, because he's played in defence the whole season and just got exposed for a guy who's hardly played forward.
Hawks by just 5 points. Rioli's kick smothered by Jolly. The ricochet went Collingwood's way. Beam shot it off the side bottom forward of the play to Shaw. Didn't get hold of it. Push in the back for Solo. Collingwood with the advantage. Side bottom to Beams. Terrible kick to Cracker. Had to take it round the laces. Back to side bottom. Wedges it wide. 2 wide. 2 terrible kicks in a row. It gets away from Sinclair and out of bounds.
Geez, I'll tell you what, Gerard. I think Jordan Lewis would be pacing the corridors because this is his game out here and they haven't got their leading ball.
50 from the Collingwood goal. Jolly puts it underfoot and follows up. He tries to paddle it for Thomas's advantage. He didn't get there. Saul is held with it. Pendlebury tackled him. They circle. The umpire to bounce. Sidebottom had 2 gift opportunities to set them up for goal and he blew them both.
He's better kick than that, isn't he? Wellingham doesn't use it, but the Sidebottom's pretty good normally.
As a rule.
Yeah.
Bounce in the forward pocket. Ball's held up and the umpire will bounce once more.
Well, the playing field is very much one-on-one. Very much one-on-one. 10 players outside defensive 50.
Jolly wins the hit away from goal. Beams might have been pushed in the back by Rioli. Play on, said the umpire. No whistle on that play. Pendlebury fights hard for it. Outstanding in the first quarter, a bit quieter in the second. Spills to Franklin, who tries to burst through the pack. Runs into a dead end. Concedes a little bit of ground. Thomas grabs it for Collingwood. Hand pass away to Fasolo. They ran out of room. It's out of bounds on the full. In fact, off a Hawthorn player. It's going to be a Collingwood free kick to be taken by Fasolo in between wing and half forward. Southern stand side. Massive pack gathers close to the boundary line. Punched by Stratton. Didn't go out. Collingwood wanted in. Cloak has it. Hand pass back to Johnson. Outside the 50. Centering ball. Diving mark. Cracker. Right in front. 40 out.
Beautiful piece of play. I think it might be Wellingham who was able to protect his teammate then. Might have been Sidebottom, in fact. Was able to keep the 22. Yes, Sidebottom was able to keep Shields out of this contest without deliberately shepherding. It was just a lovely slide past, gave Cracker access.
This for 3 unanswered goals by Collingwood, and to put them in front, Andrew Cracker has nailed it. Wow, what a comeback by the Pies. They lead by a point.
Well, it's a wonderful comeback, and it started at the centre bounce, and they've got the ball into their front half, and Hawthorn cannot get the ball out. There's a fundamental difference in the defence structure. Hawthorn go all the way one-on-one, but Maxwell won't go past the halfway mark. We spoke about Sidebottom not grabbing the opportunity, but Johnson's kick inside 50 was fantastic. But both teams are struggling to control small forwards. So whatever team can give their small forwards the best looks are going to get the scoreboard pressure on, and Collingwood have got all the momentum and opportunities at doing that at the moment.
7-4 to 6-9. Collingwood by a point. 4 minutes left in the half. Bounced back in the middle. Hale knocked it straight down to Swan, dispossessed by Burgoyne. Spills out to the wing for Suckling. The Hawks with a chance. Rioli now back to Suckling. Gets it onto the left boot. He's kicked it in the rough head direction. Up to meet it. Brown came with him. It's about the crumb. Burgoyne gets hold of it. Wasted the hand pass. Wellingham cuts it off. Tuvey muscled over the boundary by Brust. It'll be thrown in 30 from the Hawthorn goal. They'll be shocked to be behind just at this moment. Jolly works Hale away from it, but he didn't do a lot with the tap. Burgoyne released it. Rioli hand passed forward of the play, and it hit the behind post to be thrown in. The hand pass was worth 25 metres.
Jared, with the field position of the ball, Hawthorn should get another score.
Let's see if they can conjure it at the throw-in. Hale guides it out the back. Needs Puopolo. Held in the tackle by Tuvey. Hale works it up to Smith. Snapped across the body, and he does come up with a score, and it is a goal. Isaac Smith. Out of the stoppage, the Hawks reclaim the lead.
I was right. You are a great coach. That was a fantastic. Well, the call was right, and I must admit I'm looking at the same structures and moments that you are. I couldn't see what you were saying, but it came down exactly, and they were able to work it back. You know, they didn't get it from the contest on the forward side. They were able to come back defensively, if you like, to open up the time and space. Very good finish by Smith, because he missed 2 earlier ones that he should have put away under much less pressure.
4th change in the lead. 5-point lead to the Hawks. Jolly wins the hit out perfectly down to Swan. Standing start, a high ball to the 50. Wellingham waits down, stumped out by the Hawks. It comes to Sewell inside the centre square. He kicks to full forward. Rioli out number 2-1. Maxwell with a fist away, but it goes goalwards for Hawthorn. Puopolo gives chase, runs out of room, taken to the ground by Harry O'Brien. Throw in.
Now, can you read the structure again, Chris, and make a Nostradamus again?
The odds are they will get another score here before, and there's only a few minutes to go.
Throw in taken quickly. Jolly in front of Hale. Socket out of there by Pendlebury outside the 50. Good contest by Thomas. He wins the ball, gets after it again, but fumbles the second time over the boundary line. And we get a throw in.
Now the ball's moved from a 30-metre throw-in now to a 55. This is an important piece of play for Collingwood.
Yep.
They've now got more of a chance of getting into their front half.
Yep.
Seems little, but it's significant.
At the throw-in, it was wide of the ruckman. Beams got the tap. He punched it forward. For Solo overran it though, suckling at ground level. Sewell's having a hard time getting hold of it with Wellingham for company. Sewell has it. He's trying to barge his way through that pack. It's disputed to a bounce. Adam White.
Yeah, Jared, there are fears down here at ground level that Brendan Whitecross may have done his ACL. We'll try and get it confirmed with Hawthorn at half-time, but that is the general feeling.
Hawks at half forward. Hale cleanly down to Sewell up inside the 50. Reid was well placed. It was punched away from him, though, by Savage, who works it all the way to the boundary. And they are a chance to set up again in the left forward pocket.
And, Jared, that was a significant piece of play because Reid is the second best Collingwood player at intercepting marks that creates that run back out of defence. Great play by Savage.
At the throw-in, Hale to the front. Jolly, though, clearly. Down to Pendlebury. Puopolo wrapped him up. Pendlebury nearly threw that away. He'll get the benefit of the doubt from the umpire. It went back to the boundary.
I'm right. Jolly is savaging them in the stoppages, isn't he? He is putting it to their advantage 5 out of 6 times.
Hawks by 5 points deep forward. Oh, this holding on where? There's a lot of pointing going on. It's a Hawthorn free kick a long way off the footy.
Well,
against Maxwell, so it goes up to the stoppage where Hale is to take the shot at goal.
Jared, it looked like one of those 3-card tricks where I think it's Burgoyne's just slipped one into Maxwell. He's responded, bang, free kick, and you'll get the looks if the ball's in your front half.
Well, that's the first one they picked up in 50 minutes of footy. Only been about 4,372 I counted before that.
David Hale close in. He'll let fly from 30 and notch the goal. The Hawks have steadied up well after being headed, and they look set to take the leads at half-time. 8-9-57 to Collingwood 7-4-46.
On the back of your, solution? No, your equation down there. It was within the range. I know the free kick, but it was, what can I say, converted from the range that you're talking about, inside 30, 40 metres from. And it's been fascinating to watch the setup of both sides once it's deep in their front half. Pretty hard to get it out.
High 70s, 80,000 here at the MCG tonight in the qualifying final. The winner has a week off. And the loser fights another day. The bounce, not all that high. It's won by Roughhead, who's gone into the ruck, and he gets a hand pass out. Bursting past is Bruce. He kicks to Franklin, who marks on his chest about 35 metres from goal.
Having given Jolly he just belted. Birchall just belted Jolly, let him know that he got beaten for the first time for the night. Roughhead jumped clean over the top. Was a fantastic effort. That's the classical one you've talked about. Good hit, great hand pass release in the middle, forward into the front half. Here's
Franklin for his first goal of the night. Not far off centre, 40 out. And he's hooked it. He's hooked it for a behind. Set shot. Incredible for a man who kicks 59 goals for the season.
That was a great kick of Bruce. There's not much Chris Tarrant could have done about that.
No, nothing.
Hawks by 12. 35 seconds left in the half. Johnson the kicking outside the defensive area, but it's picked off by Savage.
Great mark.
In a pack that included Roughhead and Jolly. Savage sets it back to the hot spot. Great lead. Franklin took it on the way down. He doesn't take too many like that.
No, he doesn't, but it's a much improved area of his game, David. He didn't used to take any contested marks. That was a genuine contested mark and something he's brought to his game this season.
Yeah, and he had to make it not only back to the ground, but out about the length of his body to get control. But they're saying that it hit the ground. He'd already swallowed it, I think, was in control before his body and the ball hit the ground. That's how I see it.
So every umpire on the ground will get in line with Franklin to see that he holds his line. The final act of the half.
Well, at least they haven't gone and spoken to him.
So Hawthorn have set this up with a lead of 12 that's about to grow. Franklin from 30 blasts it through. And the Hawks go in 3 goals up. and they gather en masse.
Haven't they?
Collingwood headed them, but Hawthorn responded. 9-10-64 to the Pies, 7-4-46.
That means Hawthorn won the quarter after being headed, after a terrific comeback by the Pies. They finished with the 3 unanswered goals themselves.
The goal kickers Savage with a couple, one each to Hodge, Smith, Gunston, Hale, Bruce, Franklin and Rioli. For the Pies, it's 2 for Cracker, 2 for Wellingham, singles for Sinclair, Cloak and Shaw. Half-time of the qualifying final, Hawthorn by 18 points over Collingwood on Grandstand AFL. David Parkin and Chris Conley.
Can I just respond, Chris? Partway through the quarter, you and I read, you called it, I'd written it down on my paper, fatigue has settled in. And I thought, well, they kicked 6 goals in the first quarter. There were 10 shots to 5. Thought this game would probably disintegrate. It might be 11 or 12 goals to win it. In fact, from that point on, the rating lifted again. I can't believe the physical preparation or condition of these players. It then went from 19 to 11 scoring shots, and they kicked 10 goals in the second quarter compared with the 6 in total for the first quarter. I was amazed that under such physical duress and the fatigue that you and I both, I suppose in coaching you look for those sort of things. We need to slow it down a bit and get a breath and take it back. It had reached that point, the game, and somehow it kicked away again.
Look, when the ball's moving from end to end, the structure started to break down. But in the last 10 minutes or 7 minutes of that quarter, it was really played in Hawthorn's front half. So it was a bit easier for both teams to structure up. So the fatigue wasn't as obvious.
Yes.
But the efforts around the ball have been sensational. In fact, I wrote down, look, this could be a contest between Andrew Russell, the fitness coach at Hawthorn, and Dave Butterfant, the Director of Sports Science at Collingwood, because it will come down. But what I think we really saw was the best of Hawthorn, and the best of Hawthorn is the confidence they have and the resilience, and I think they don't have a breaking point. So if you are going to beat Hawthorn, you've got to play out every minute of the game. Collingwood dropped their guard in the last 7 minutes. They lost the centre bounces, which were crucial. They didn't have the mechanisms to get the ball out of their back half, and Hawthorn had 3 shots at goal. And I think that the only way you're going to beat Hawthorn is sustain the pressure relentlessly for the whole 4 quarters, and Collingwood did some magnificent things in that quarter, but they just couldn't do it for the whole quarter.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Chris. Hawthorn have been playing at a disposal efficiency of 75.4. They're down to 69. This is how much pressure on. The very point you made, I'm taking your stuff here. It's 38 to 46 the tackles, 46 by Collingwood and 38 to Hawthorn. That'll take them up round the 80 apiece. Unheard of in a game. Now, where they can sustain that too, but everybody's been under duress. So we keep being a little critical of the finish on players, etc. But even when they're not under pressure, they're under perceived pressure, because the previous time we got rolled over. So we're going to get rolled over again when the player's not even there, the opponent, to put pressure on. They're getting rid of it hand and foot just a bit quicker than they should.
Yeah, and look, if I think there's one thing that has stood out with Collingwood that they'd be disappointed in, and they did some great things in that quarter, they have had a lot of clangers kicked, that really stand out when they kick direct to the opposition. Now, I know Hawthorn have reared their head in that area too, but Collingwood have kicked straight to the opposition. And whilst we talk about clangers, there's different forms of turnovers, which I talk about often. There's big-time turnovers, and there's medium-sized turnovers, and there's ones you half get away with. They've had some kicks straight to the opposition, particularly in their back half, and it's hurt them immensely, because if you took out those what would be termed soft goals, all of a sudden it's a little bit more of an even contest than you do think on the scoreboard.
Could I go back to this before the contested possession in a game like this? 84 versus 83. It is not a game for faint hearts. They're all small bodies. I just can't believe how much they're punished to actually win the ball in the first place.
Let's be honest, David. If you cannot win, look, I think if you can't win more than 20% of the balls contested, you're not going to survive in the game. And if you can't live the moment to win the ball when it's in dispute, or certainly not deviate from putting your body on the line, you're just not going to survive at the pointy end of the season.
And it's interesting that the best for Collingwood is Swan, as you would expect, followed by Beams and Pendlebury. And the two in the best by a mile so far, as you would expect, Sewell and Mitchell, even without Lewis's facts. So they've covered for Lewis inside pretty well. I mean, he's the you pulled it out right at the start. This is the game for Lewis, and he's not there. So they've done it to this point at least without their major contributor in the most important area.
But I'll tell you what, I'm not sure you should be bashing up Buddy. You should bash up either Sewell or Mitchell, because if you can take one of those out of the game, I'm not sure who's going to carry, pick up the slack around the stoppages with Lewis out. Although I think Hodges had a very good game. But Sewell and Mitchell are specialists in the role, two of the best stoppage players in the competition, and they come to the party when the whips are cracking.
They've had 10 contested possessions each, Sewell and Mitchell, and I reckon Lewis, who isn't playing tonight, just might get a bandage on his head at half-time to feel part of it.
Sammy Mitchell's had 8 clearances. 8 clearances in a game this tough and tight. He is a superstar.
Yeah, and that's compared with Beams and Pendlebury on the other side, who have had 5 each. Which is pretty good in a contest too, because
like Collingwood strengths your weakness. They don't have a tagger. Now I've asked Collingwood people about this. How come you don't have a tagger? They said we don't have one in the stocks. Now looking at these stats, you've got to get Mitchell away from the clearances, because if you do, with Lewis out, you're in the box seat to win these stoppages and get the ball in your front half.
Well, in my humble opinion, Blair has had that job. For most of the time, I've looked at Sam at stoppage. You've got to wait. I've got to wait to stoppage to see it happen, because they both get off. But Blair's the one who's controlled it. He doesn't have the strength to do it. He's a good inside player. I would have thought. What is Blair now running at tonight? He's running at 6 contested, 3 uncontested. That's a good balance for him, really, because he's a small person, and Mitchell is probably the best in the competition at doing it.
But the great taggers, the Cameron Lings, Ryan Crowley's made a name for him. They're big, they can get their fist in, they can stop those guys getting their hands first on the ball.
Yeah, and they're always with him. I mean, he went all the way. Mitchell hated him with the hand between his shoulder blades wherever he went for the day, not just at stoppages, but for every other moment on the ground. That drives you mad.
And the niggle meter is on Buddy Franklin down there, the old niggle meter, and they've got to get the niggle meter on Sam Mitchell.
Half-time of the first qualifying final. Hawthorn 9-10-64 to Collingwood at 7-4-46.
The Collingwood players round up by the captain. He's very
Tarrant's
good.
Into Franklin again. It's not just elbow, shoulder to shoulder. It's more than that.
Well, the umpire's got to respond and do something about it. It's just ridiculous.
Well, the umpire bounces the ball to start the half. Actually, Hale went too early. Jolly wins. Rioli on ball now for the Hawks. The ball doesn't come outside the second circle, and the umpire will bounce it again.
And Hodge has gone deep into the front half now. He's got the captain on captain, which you don't often see.
Well, Franklin's come up onto the ball now and brought Tarrant with him. So with a different role.
Good idea.
Interesting to see what happens. Looks as though he made up his mind himself from this bounce. Wellingham gets a hand pass out. Sinclair, further hand pass. Shaw dashes past. Has a bounce. Kicks from 65. Cloak. Marks. Or did he? No, free kick. Yeah. He was held. Umpire didn't pay the mark, but he got the free.
It's a free up the ground here. It's been cancelled out.
That has
ridiculous.
Been. So the umpire is speaking to Chris Tarrant. There's going to be a free kick to Franklin back in the middle of the ground.
That's ridiculous. Well, it's ridiculous for Tarrant. I mean, this should have been done in the first few minutes of the game. I'm watching that then. Tarrant was doing the same. It's ridiculous. Well,
Franklin plays on and helicopters the ball to full forward. Brewster's there, but there's no mark. Ball towed around. Tuvey runs into trouble and is held up in the tackle. Ball up.
All that would have been saved had an umpire done exactly what he did then, 30 seconds into the game. Ludicrous. They've been spoken to at half-time, and that's the response.
From the stoppage, Hale gets hold of it. He's poked it a goal. He's poked it through for a goal.
Well, that's a massive... Sherrod, sorry, you want to call that good?
It's a huge swing, because it was a cloak goal at the other end from point-blank range, which has knocked off. Hawthorn go the length of the field and totally innocuously out of the ruck. Hale is able to get it to his boot and kick the goal, and the Hawks have the biggest lead of the night at 24 points.
Well, look, and he's still at it, Tarrant. He's just cost them dearly, and he's carrying on like a pork chop again. I mean, it's just a ludicrous that it's allowed to be on. They should pay another one now. Yep. It deserves another one.
And Franklin's got to get out of it, because if he goes into the book, this could ruin Hawthorn's chances of winning the flag. They're the favourites to win the premiership, and they need Franklin staying out of trouble.
And he needs to run Tarrant off his feet.
Mitchell roves in the middle. Hand pass away to Hale. Hoisted high. Chance here. Rough head. Good spoil by Brown, but rove by Hodge. And a snap from wide out. It was Gunston. And the ball out of play on the full. 10-10-70 Hawthorn. 7-4-46 Collingwood.
Its ability to run, Chris, is he a real runner? He's got good tank, etc.
He has, but he mightn't have the muscular endurance because of his lack of training with soft tissue injuries, but he has got a big motor.
O'Brien with a long clearing kick at the restart. Hand pass from Rioli, though, was batted down. Blair for the Pies. Hand pass to Swan. Forward of the play for Jolly. He's pretty optimistic. He ran into a dead end and dropped the footy. Blair works well through the pack. He gets it onto the left boot. Bounces it up past halfway. Cloak tried to punch it to open play and knocked it straight to Burgoyne instead. His hand pass finds Schoenmakers, who gets around Cloak. Releases it to Stratton, who gallops down the wing. Delivers in the Franklin direction. It comes up short. Gunston is outmarked cleanly by Reid in defence.
Great mark by Reid then under pressure.
And he finds side bottom unmarked inside the centre square. He has a bounce, he hesitates and kicks towards full forward. Thomas is there, knocked away from him. He butters up and bunts the ball forward for Cloak, who's close to goal and kicks the goal. Travis Cloak gets his second with a goal assist to Daisy Thomas. And that stops 4 unanswered goals by the Hawks. It's Collingwood Hawthorn 10-10, Collingwood 8 goals 4.
Yeah, look, a crucial goal for Collingwood. The ball's coming around the members' wing, goes in. Now, Reid has had a good game.
Has.
And he's been in pretty good form, particularly intercepting marks. He intercepts the ball across half-back, and side bottom spreads from the members' wing into the midfield, creates the link up forward. Ball goes inside 50. Thomas competes. Gets back at the ball, taps it out to Cloak, who runs on, and that's his second crumbing goal, if you like, or second ground ball goal. And great forwards can kick them in different ways, but a terrific team goal by the Collingwood Football Club.
So 18 points once again is the lead. Jolly cleanly down to Swan, up inside the 50. Crackers well placed. He leans back and takes the mark. He just had Murphy under the ball, protected the drop zone and fell back into it.
And I think we're seeing where Hawthorn's vulnerable. The forward line spreads their back line. They all go one-on-one all over the field. The ball comes in one-on-one, and the forwards for Collingwood are better body users than a lot of the defenders they have, and this is where they're vulnerable. Stratton's been outmarked. We're seeing Murphy being outmarked, contested ball inside forward 50.
Andrew Cracker is lining up for his third goal from 45 metres out. He hit it poorly. He put it all the way across the face. And only just to behind. So they're down by 17.
Let's not forget it came from a perfect Jolly hit at the centre bounce. Beautiful palm of the ball into the pathway. A clean exit from the middle. It was just a superb effort. He's been great tonight, Jolly.
Birchall kicks in for the Hawks with distance outside the 50. Hale in the middle of the pack. Over the top of Jolly. Takes a terrific mark. Hand pass away to Mitchell. Short pass to Bruce. Hand pass up to the wing to Franklin. He kicks it 65 metres. Ellis is there. Oh, one hand not enough. I'm sorry, that was a poor effort. It comes to Harry O'Brien. Kicks out of defence. Comes to Reid at half-back for Collingwood. Steers the pass to the middle of the ground. Cracker is one of the stories of the year. How about that? The mark. The hand pass to Beams. Beams kicks long towards full forward. There's a chance here. Oh, Cloak at the back. Nearly hauls in a mark. Comes Hawthorn's way. Schoenmakers out of defence with a dodgy-looking hand pass, but it comes okay to Burgoyne.
Burgoyne kicks beyond halfway. Rioli's the target. It bounced, and he and O'Brien both slide into the footy, knock it away, and it's out of play.
I always think one of the key indicators for Collingwood is where Swan gets his ball, and he is sweeping back trying to get into the play. He needs to get the ball in the midfield and kick the ball inside 50.
There's a free kick at the stoppage. Hawthorn with the advantage. It went to Rioli through Hale and Birchall, and he chips it up to the 50 where Bruce is taking the mark.
Yeah, look, and Franklin's now, at least he's got Tarrant on the bike. He's been up and back into the midfield, back to the goal line, across to each wing. He's doing some real run at the moment. I think that's crucial for him to survive and to become more effective in this team.
Luke Bruce. He's a real goal kicker from 48. He sends the drop punt on its way, and it's on target the whole way. The Hawks again skip out to the best part of 4 goals. 23-point leaders, 11-10 to 8-5.
David, Bruce was 15 metres clear of any Collingwood defender. Confusion must have set into the Collingwood back 6. What's your thoughts on that?
I couldn't work that out because either he wasn't working on the way out, and he's a good worker, either he'd stayed back and his opponent had gone up. I was trying to work out, Chris, why that happened. That he was inside 15 metres in the corridor clear, and didn't even have a contest on the end of a kick that came 45 metres to him.
Gee, Tarrant and Franklin, it's like Andrew Walker and Milne last week.
Ridiculous.
The umpire should have called a halt straight away. And it's just getting nasty and niggly on the stoppage, or the centre bounce. Swan bursts away and gets ankle tapped. There's no free kick for that. It comes to Pendlebury, who gets outside the centre square with a hand pass away to Dawes. His hand pass knocked down by Sewell, who's going backwards. Gets the hand pass away. Collingwood fans saying, how about that for a free kick and it for the tackle? Umpire says no, ball up. 40 metres out, right in front. Collingwood back in attack. Hawthorn 11-10-76. Collingwood 8-5-53.
It did look like a trip to Swan, David, from where we sat.
It did.
The bounce. Jolly wins. Swan runs onto it. Runs into a dead end, though. Grabbed by Bruce, who kicked the goal a moment ago. Here he is in defence.
It's a long kick on the way out. It was a blind kick, and Maxwell read it perfectly. Leapt at the footy and takes the mark just above the turf. He hits the hot spot. Cloak was on the lead. Spoil made by Schoenmakers. Was there an arm over the shoulder? No, said the ump. Thrown out of there by Cloak. Came the way of Blair. Off now to Dawes. Swinging shot at goal. Yes, it got there. It snuck in at the near post.
Well,
Collingwood manufacture a goal. Just again, they stay in touch. 9-5-59 to Hawthorn 11-10-76. 9 gone of the third term.
David, I want to ask you a question. This is a big game. How come all the big forwards are kicking, crumbing, screw kick goals, and all the small forwards are taking contested marks?
It's been fascinating, hasn't it? Yeah, I was just thinking the two inclusion, Ellis, he did drop one down here a minute ago, but Ellis and Savage have been good inclusion, but the big inclusion on a hunch, I would suggest, has been Dawes. He has been very good in all the elements that including the ruck work. He's been terrific.
Actually, Xavier Ellis has limped up the tunnel towards the rooms. Whitey, you might be able to tell us.
Yeah, he's back, but he doesn't look like... his body language to me suggests there's something wrong. He's just getting a bit of a fitness test on the bench at the moment. But, it's hard to tell, but he just doesn't look like he wants to get back out there, if you know what I mean.
From the centre bounce, it went nowhere, so the second bounce is won by Jolly. It comes into a contested pack, and Roughhead gets a little hand pass away. Savage kicks up towards half forward. Run on to here for Hawthorn by Shields. He gets the kick inside the 50. Oh, Rioli scoops it off the deck. A lucky kick onto Gunston. A short pass to the goal square. That's missed the target, Isaac Smith, and it bounces through for a behind. Not sure how they didn't score a goal then.
Was a play on that against him, wasn't it? The kick was too short to be classified as a mark. He got in two minds whether to hand pass it or short kick it. Unfortunately, short kick missed his teammate and went through for a point.
Hawks by 18. Johnson on the kick in. Jolly's his target. He was playing in front. He didn't complete the mark. Brewster's threatening to burst through. He got through. He'll kick to full forward. Puopolo on the full dive. Clutches the footy to his chest.
They've been exposed a bit, haven't they?
Oh, their kick-ins aren't functional, and that's because Heathshaw's up the other end. Johnson's not a great kick. We all know that. He's an experienced player, so he's kind of okay, but he took the money kick out to Jolly. O'Brien was free by himself. Heathshaw would have picked off O'Brien. Their kick-ins are a huge issue.
Yep.
Paul Puopolo close in. The Hawks by 4 goals again. 12-11 to 9-5. Adam White.
Xavier Ellis has come back out onto the field. As I said, his body language wasn't great, and he almost, wouldn't say he hobbled onto the ground again, but he seems to be favouring that right side a little bit. That knee is heavily bandaged, but that was like that before the game, so not really sure of the injury at this stage.
Yeah, look, Adam, he lay in the middle of the ground. Remember that? He was down for a long while, flat in his face. He looked like he'd been concussed to me. It was more of that sort of he just didn't look, he looked lethargic in the bloke.
And he does now, and that's not usually the way he is.
No, he's up and about normally.
Light spray of rain, but the weather has actually been better than was forecast. It's a ripping cold breeze, but 83 to 59. The bounce in the middle. Roughhead wins this. Ball comes down to Hodge out of the circles. He kicks Hawthorn to half forward. Knocked out by Maxwell towards the boundary line. Helped closer to the boundary line by Thomas. And now grabbed by Tuvey. It was out of bounds, was he, before he kicked it?
Oh.
He would hope that he was, because then he kicked it out of bounds on the full and has given away the free kick.
Your call was right, I think, Drew.
I thought he had taken the ball over the line before he kicked it. But Birchall now has the free. Back at centre wing for the Hawks. No, he's been moved up about 25, 30 metres. Hawthorn 12-11, Collingwood 9-5. 13 minutes played, third quarter. To a big pack inside the 50. It's punched away by Brown, but gets behind him. Puopolo close to the boundary line, rolled over by Tuvey, and we'll get a throw in.
David, I've looked at the back six for Collingwood, and Johnson is the best kick, which leads to the theory that no wonder Collingwood move long around the boundary when they're trying to move the ball out of defence.
Left forward pocket, Puopolo kicks it off the ground, it rolls all the way to the goal square. Gunston in one direction, O'Brien the other. O'Brien did enough to tow it away, clear the area and see it out of bounds.
Hawthorn supporters will ask him to deliver it.
Yes.
Of course.
Over in the right forward pocket now. Jolly and Hale. Hale controlled that, but he didn't find a teammate with the tap. Swan gets hold of it. Hand pass to O'Brien. Careful, too careful. He missed Blair and kicked it out of bounds on the full, or was it touched?
I think he dived full length
the
and
umpire's
touched
saying touched, isn't he? Yeah,
it was touched, but it was a poor kick by O'Brien. We've seen Tuvey kick poorly. We've seen Johnson kick poorly. They've got all sorts of trouble getting the ball out of their back half, the Collingwood Football Club.
50 from the Hawthorn goal. They're really stretching Collingwood now. Out of the stoppage, Rioli paddles it to Roughhead, up to Hodge, clever deft touch. Didn't amount to anything as Savage left the footy behind. Pack forms, Roughhead swipes it clear, Rioli pounced and gold. A touch of class with all the blue collar work going on under the pack. As soon as it broke, Rioli was there to capitalise. It's the Hawks by 5 goals. It's an ominous break. 13-11 to 9-5.
You called that, Gerard, with the inside work initially of Hodge to get his body over and trap the ball into the zone. And then the big fella, Roughhead. I'm telling you, he's brilliant round his feet, not just for his size. He's as good round his feet as the medium or small by play. They all ran to him because he got the hit into the space that allowed the goal to be scored by Rioli. And that's the one I'd hate to have to play on Rioli in the front half. I mean, he's pushed up now, but made him back by himself there. You wouldn't sleep very well on that thought.
Bounce back in the middle. He's like a vacuum cleaner the way he scoops the ball up. It's one in the middle here by Hale down to Mitchell. He gets the hand pass away, and the kick from centre wing is astray and is marked on defensive 50 by Tuvey. That ball coming in from Suckling for the Hawks.
Yeah, overplayed himself.
Collingwood need the next goal desperately. Fasolo in front, can't mark, just behind the wing. It comes to Beams, off to Thomas, gets the hand pass to Tuvey, good pass, and here's Cracker taking the mark near the circles. 50-metre penalty. He was interfered with by Murphy after the mark, and Cracker will be marched right up the ground and has a chance to kick his third goal.
Can't argue about it, Murphy. No. That was just a ludicrous. I don't know what was going through his head. Obviously nothing.
It was a silly decision by Murphy. Collingwood weren't convincing moving the ball out of defence there, David. They kicked the ball to Fasolo. He's marked by Gibson. The ball hits the deck and they win the next contest. But the only way they're moving it out is by contest after contest.
Right in front, 35 out, 3 goals to Cracker. Back from a knee reconstruction.
It's a great story, really, the whole bit, isn't it? From go to woe with his being picked up by the Collingwood Football Club, what he had to go through to get back to here. I thought there's no way Noni could come in and play first up after a spell reasonable, thought second up after a spell he wouldn't be good. He's been one of their most effective footballers tonight.
It's good plaster needed at the MCG, I'm sure, in the Hawthorn box. Adam White.
Gerard, this is the big test for Collingwood because Darren Jolly has come for the break again in the third term. When it happened late in the second, that was when Hawthorn started to get on top. So a big test here for Chris Dawes in the ruck.
It's the Hawks by 24 points. Hale and Dawes go to work in the middle. Hale cleanly down to Sewell. Couldn't break away from Swan. Released the ball. Dawes had a fumble. Hand pass to Beams. Collingwood will come forward. Kick in the cloak direction. Got rid of Schoenmakers and gets the free kick. I thought it was going to be against him, in all honesty, but Schoenmakers had a fistful of jumper playing from in front, so he was reaching back and he had the cuff of the jumper.
It was a very good decision in the end, that one.
It was, yeah. I saw what I didn't see, obviously.
So Cloak is angled to the right, but it's not substantial. He's a long way from home. He'll let fly from 52, and he dragged it right.
Nothing.
Missed the lot. It's a poor kick. They're down by 24.
But David, that's where the fans get frustrated. They don't see that little grab that the umpires do pick up usually.
Gibson with the free to a pack. Ball comes down. Savage bowled over. The umpire to bounce.
They huddled there, Hawthorn, and Smith wasn't allowed out. Smith was grabbed 4 times and wasn't allowed to get free. Umpire saw it and just ignored it.
Alan Didak in the vest, loosening up, trying to tell Nathan Buckley he's ready to come on. Mitchell clears from the stoppage, up towards centre wing. Oh, backhander by Rioli is unbelievable. Puopolo dragged down, I'm not sure he had it. It goes forward for Hawthorn. A soccer forward by Roughhead. Burgoyne follows up. Shaw is with him. Out the back door from Shaw, but only as far as Shields for Hawthorn, who kicks to the goal square. Franklin is there, one out with Tarrant. Free kick to Franklin. Well, Tarrant had his back to Franklin. He kicked the goal. All clear, says the umpire. A goal to Buddy, his second.
He was setting the mark. I don't understand. And now the 2 Collingwood players are asking the very question I would have asked. If they've stopped the ball, he's still coming towards the mark, walking in the same direction as the player with the ball who's going to kick it. And he allowed him to play on.
I reckon they penalised Tarrant. They said, you deserved it.
Well, it was on.
That's what's going on. There is a severe correction going from the first half to the second half. And this game has been exceptionally poorly umpired. And this will be the last game for these 3 for the season.
Freeze were 13-4 at one stage. They're now 14-8. They're evening them up.
95 plays 65. Bounce back in the middle. Hale gets his hand to it, but he knocked it to Beams. Tremendous smother by Ellis, who gathers the ricochet. Kicked a full forward. Franklin sets himself. Didn't mark. Coming through is Gunston. He'll ram it through. They're off and gone, the Hawks. They're 6 goals up, and they're on the brink of breaking Collingwood. The only sour note is Puopolo is flat on the field with 4 trainers around him. Adam White.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Jared. Nick Maxwell was in the vicinity as well. Puopolo was down. He's already got a bandage to his left leg, and Hawthorn players are well aware of what took place.
He's been reported.
He's pointing at Maxwell, and he's giving it to him from 50 metres away, and there's been a bit.
Oh, well if that's an out-and-out whack, that's season over for the Collingwood skipper. In the middle, Wellingham, brilliant with a hand pass to Swan. He kicks long, chance for Cloak, big chance, in the goal square, mark and goal. Cloak gets his 3rd. Maybe the Pies not done with yet.
That is fair. Just give
Wellingham,
it was just fantastic. But to get it out of the centre, Jolly, I just thought he was past his prime and he couldn't influence games like I saw a Goldstein take him apart a few weeks ago. Thought he saw an old and tired and lost it. He has been magnificent in his role. I would reckon the clearances from the middle, the good clearances that go straight in, he's been 4, 5 or 6 of those have been directly from his first body placement and hit of the ball. It's been unbelievably good to watch.
Margin is 30 points, 22 minutes into the 3rd term. Low bounce. Hale gets his hand to it, but coming off the wing was Sidebottom. Hand pass to Pendlebury. Change direction neatly. Hand pass forward to Blair. He'll pop it up inside the 50. Gibson's well placed, but he didn't mark. Wellingham ran good interference for Solo. Got it in the pack. He fired it near side. Crowd rose behind the goals and had to settle back down, unsatisfied. They're down by 29.
And they're not done either. I reckon it's fantastic. They just won't give up, haven't given in, haven't conceded when they might have. No, won't do it. The coach said they wouldn't, and they haven't.
22 minutes played, third quarter. Hawthorn lead by 29 points. Kick well outside the 50. Jolly's back on. He knocks it to the front, but the hand pass by Fasolo is intercepted by Gunston. He's kicked to centre wing. Mitchell with Reid. It's a mismatch. Reid wins the contest. Shares the ball with Shaw. Has it at half back. Oh, a very high ball. It's not raining already. That'll bring rain. Centre wing. Attempted spoil by Birchall. He got something on it. The ball's out of play.
Not much.
Not much. Fresh air?
Yeah. I think a little side breathing on it. That's about all.
The cracking preliminary final last year. Hawthorn won the first three quarters. Collingwood stormed over the top of them. Could this be something similar? Franklin has it on centre wing. Cornered like a rabbit in the lights. Hand pass back. Burgoyne, a kick to half forward. Reid! Up, couldn't take the mark. He's on his backside as the ball comes back to him. A hand pass. Back into the pack. If it comes out for Hawthorn, it's going to be trouble for Collingwood. It'll be a baller.
It has been a master stroke bringing Buddy Franklin up around the ball, David. Chris Tarrant has to, because he's around the vicinity, has to be switched onto the ball a bit more. And Chris has done a very good job on Buddy, but this has allowed Buddy to get more into the game.
Hawks by 29. Jolly down to Swan. Kick around the wing. For Solo comes one way. Schoenmakers and Cloak the other. Schoenmakers did enough to push it towards the boundary and over. Plaudits from his fans. Puopolo's still got the towel to the nose, trying to get the bleeding to stop. And after the hit from Maxwell, Jolly down to Swan again. Same play up to half forward. Cloak, it clears him. Shoemaker's grappling and rolls away and out of play.
You just sense Pendlebury, Swan, starting to get a bit dominant around the clearances now.
And Jolly's given them a magnificent ride.
Didak has run onto the ground, so the Pies activate the sub. The throw in is at their end. Roughhead down to Ellis though. Hand pass to Sewell. Kick around the wing, so Puopolo's strapped back up and on the ground, and Maxwell beats him, takes the mark. Puopolo doesn't remonstrate too much.
No,
Made part company. I wondered what the byplay would be.
Yeah, we did all did.
Puopolo's got the Hannibal Lecter tape on.
And he's got a premiership to play in, he reckons. He won't be doing anything silly. Mitchell fires out a hand pass to Ellis, but the whistle had gone. Free kick to Birchall for Hawthorn at half-back. 101-72, a 29-point lead to the Hawks, 25 minutes into the third quarter. Kick by Birchall. Franklin in the middle of the pack. In front, Reid. Hands to it once more, but couldn't take the mark. And the ball out of play. Adam White.
So Alan Didak is into the action, the green vest off. Nathan Brown is out of the play for Collingwood. He's wearing the red vest.
Reid's taken 4 marks tonight, but had his hands to a few more than that. Comes to Didak. Probably wish he hadn't come on because he was absolutely swamped and murdered by Franklin. Taken to ground.
He said, I'm glad I sat out the first 3 quarters. That's what's going to happen. Give me some time and space, boys.
So approaching left half forward for the Hawks. At the stoppage, Burgoyne gets a hand pass off to Sewell. He'll run it up to half forward. Puopolo couldn't quite get hold of it. Tuvey is down in a good tackle. Smith did the work. Puopolo to Mitchell, to Sewell, up to the goal square. This is all about the bounce, and it sits neatly for side bottom to get hold of. His kick on the way out is not very good. It's going to roll straight to Murphy. Runs into Swan, releases the footy. Suckling's got the numbers against him, and the numbers prevail. Side bottom has a better go at the second kick, and he floats it up to Sinclair. He can see Thomas making space, but the kick didn't reach him. The thief got in there, Rioli. He kicked it straight into Burgoyne, though. It ricocheted to Sewell, to Burgoyne, to Roughhead, to Mitchell. He goes inside the 50 where Smith lurks and marks.
Give it away, son. Give it away. He's trying to, looking everywhere. I don't want to have another shot and miss another one tonight. Mitchell's capacity to drop his eyes, to lower his vision and to find someone short and in a better position, amazing. I reckon how quickly he does it and the time that he gets to do it.
And he's done it in the furnace tonight, in the furnace.
Isaac Smith kicking for his second from 35. He starts it right. He can't work it back. And that is a behind. The margin is 5 goals neat.
27 minutes played, third quarter. If the Pies can finish with a couple of goals here before the siren, we might yet have that rib-tickling final quarter like we had last year in the prelim. Maxwell marks, gets the boos of the crowd, kicks into Rioli. It's come unstuck big time. It spills Hawthorn's way and a snap for goal.
Over the mark. He definitely cribbed over the mark. Fantastic smother, but he went forward and hard over the mark. Umpire didn't see it. Could have cost them dearly.
Well, Gunston's kicked 2 goals, 3 and 1 out of bounds.
Johnson on the kick in. He went for Wellingham, set him a task. Hodge dropped the mark and Wellingham got hold of it. Hand pass to side bottom. Off now to Wellingham. Bounces it round the wing. Didak's first touch is a hand pass to side bottom who kept coming. And then he's kicked it out of bounds on the full. So they got it forward of halfway, but there it ends. Back in Hawk hands. Mitchell squares it off to Gibson. Now work the switch across the face of goal. Schoenmakers. Suckling makes the break. He'll get it 30 away from the defensive goal. And his target working hard for him is Murphy. Clear of the defensive area. Gunston's up the field. Schoenmakers has run on. They're all legitimate targets. Schoenmakers will be on at 25 further afield. That's to bring it out to right halfback. Well, he's kicked that into the man on the mark. It falls Dawes' way and it just fell out of his grasp. He paddles it up to Wellingham, swings it around the body inside the 50. Cloak sets himself and he's able to mark. Schoenmakers wasn't back in the vicinity, so he pays the price for a poor kick.
Terrible turnover. I can't whoever it was just a terrible kick, and Cloak was resting up, hadn't followed up, wasn't putting any pressure on. Schoenmakers was doing the right thing. The turnover cost him dearly.
6 marks for Cloak. He's had a big couple of weeks after having the blowtorch put on him. This is for goal number 4, including 3 this quarter.
Look, there's been a lot of turnovers, particularly in the defensive halves of both teams. You just wonder whether it's fatigue, pressure, or a combination.
From the 50, Cloak, that's no good. He sprayed one out to the right on the full, and this one's gone left and only snuck in for a behind.
And unfairly, you'll cop a fair bit of criticism, won't be, because he's won the ball as well as he has at any stage in his career. He had the yips for a while. He's got back on song, started okay, and then has missed 2 that should have kicked.
Margin 30 points. Still a few minutes to go in this third quarter. Reid marks Hodges' kick, and Reid is forward of the wing. 2 kicks to goal from there. He thumps it long. Cloak's not a bad option. He's there. It comes to the front. Bit of volleyball being played until Gibson gathers and is caught in a 2-man tackle. Cloak rips it off the ground. It goes goalwards for Collingwood, but cleared by Schoenmakers for the Hawks. Onto the chest of Wellingham, though.
I'd love to have a look at that on the mark thing that Rioli cut off previously.
Wellingham's kick into a nest of Hawks, and Sewell takes the mark in defence, and he goes back behind the mark to chew up a bit of time.
But it's very good play, Drew, because all of the Hawthorn players were in and around him, and he needs to give them time to spread forward.
Kick by Brad Sewell with distance. Hale from the back punches forward, but it's rowed by Tuvey. Off to Maxwell, off to Pendlebury. Chance now for Collingwood. Pendlebury from 75 out. Long to full forward. Swan in the chop. It's punched away by Franklin, playing basically at full back.
Suckling to Roughhead and Murphy, and now Sewell out of the back line. It wasn't a bad kick, although it was just a fraction high for Stratton. He got his hand to it, but it fell from his grasp and out of play.
They've looked much more effective, Chris, haven't they? Their defensive unit, when it's got deep in and they've had the numbers, they've brought it out much better than Collingwood have.
Yep. 50 out from the Pies goal. Roughhead won his way to the front. Sewell bats it further afield. Puopolo tried to protect it forward. It was a good play because Smith has towed it and he's on the dash. He kicks it into the middle. Now Shaw's really the last line for Collingwood, and he's not a bad last line. He runs into Puopolo, wrapped him up, caught him, a bounce right in the centre.
Well, Smith is a very good player, isn't he, David? He breaks the lines and he's a running machine, and he'll tidy up his kicking and be a really top-line player for Hawthorn.
Hale, clear tap, straight to Pendlebury though, to Beams, to Wellingham on the spread. He comes back through the middle, delivers in the cloak direction. He got it. Gets clear of Schoenmakers to mark at the back.
Gee, if they kick this and one more, it's game on.
Well, he's looked so dangerous, Travis Cloak. I mean, the confidence he must give his team that he just catches everything that comes to him one-on-one.
3-1 and 1 out of bounds. 25 out, no angle. Cloak's got this one. Keep the Collingwood fire burning as we head toward three-quarter time. They're down by 24, 15-13 to 12-7. Adam White.
Once again, Nathan Buckley coaching the last 4 or 5 minutes of the quarter from the bench like a basketball coach. He's so close to being on the field. He's had his game face on all week, and it's certainly not disappearing now as we get into the business end of this match.
Well, they've got the method, haven't they? They've got, if they get reasonable access to Cloak and they can spread the other forwards so that they can't come over the top as they did early on the long ones. Cloak's coming at the ball, marking strongly. He's the key, as we've thought before the game. He's the most important player in either side.
Bounce in the middle. Jolly wins another hit out. Beams lays a terrific tackle. And the umpire will bounce once more. There is time left. Just under a minute remaining in the third quarter. Time for another goal for Collingwood. If they can trail by just 3 goals at the last change, they'll give themselves a chance. Jolly wins another hit out. Down to Pendlebury. Chest mark taken by the sub Didak. Inside the centre square. They want it long and fast. He torpedoes it a mile to the goal square. And a defensive mark, good mark, is taken by Burgoyne.
Burgoyne on the way out. It's not a great kick. Smith has to take it on the bounce and kick to open terrain. So the Pies should get this back, although Franklin's making a wonderful dash from 75 away. Didak gets hold of it. The Pies are on the clock. They've got 30 seconds. Off to Pendlebury. Forward now to Shaw. He has a bounce. Runs to half forward. Kicks to the hot spot. Hawthorn with all the numbers. They didn't mark. They went to spoil instead. Blair against the boundary. Can't keep it in. They get a chance with 12 seconds on the clock from the boundary throw in.
One here would make a heck of a difference in the context of the game.
To bring the game alive. At the final change, Jolly cleanly down. Beams dispossessed. Cracker dispossessed. Murphy gets some sort of kick away. Ellis takes possession. Taken high by Fasolo. And there it ends.
Lucky.
4 goals in it at three-quarter time. The Hawks have edged it out from 15 to 18 to 24. The game high lead was 36 in that quarter. 15-13, 103 Hawthorn. Collingwood 12-7, 79. The goal kickers, 2 each for Gunston, Hale, Savage, Bruce, Franklin and Rioli, with singles to Hodge, Smith and Puopolo. For Collingwood, 4 for Cloak, 3 for Cracker, 2 for Wellingham, and 1 each to Sinclair, Dawes and Shaw. The Hawks by 24 points, three-quarter time of the first qualifying final.
And gone through the goal have all been in Collingwood's favour. Better hits, better placed, better release. You know, it's been terrific.
Hawthorn by 24 points. Light rain falling at the MCG into the last quarter. Jolly with the tap. Beams was buried into the turf. And we'll need a second bounce.
Well, he might have helped it forward, but surely he was first in and was collected from behind. That's how you get the game going up. Just blow the whistle and pay the bloke playing the ball.
Rain is swirling in the conditions. Jolly again with a clear hit. Pendlebury trying to get hold of it. Worked off it. Sewell. He's going to nudge the Hawks inside the forward line, but Reid was awake to it.
Good effort, wasn't it?
He's played well.
Roughhead's hard to get round in those circumstances. He beat him cleanly.
So from the intercept mark, Reid spreads out looking for Swan. It's Skidner off the turf just a little. Burgoyne wears him close and dispossessed him. A big win for Burgoyne holding the ball.
So you get rewarded for running second. Don't like that either.
Onto the right boot, up to full forward. Roughhead against Reid. Roughhead reaches up, got hands to it. Oh, he got hit front on by Daisy Thomas. No free kick out of the pack. Shields poked it away. And it bounces out of play.
I think you're right. He did get hit, but he caused it because he launched himself forward early and collected the bloke who was just making the ball his object.
The rain's still light, but scudding across the ground. At the boundary throw, and it clears the ruckman. It comes to Beams, who kicks it as long as he can up to the middle of the ground. Dawes underneath it, has it punched away. Comes Hawthorn's way. Burgoyne in between wing and half forward. The kick inside 50. Diving spoil, but it comes Hawthorn's way across the ground. On the 50. Ellis. Oh, he tried to balk around Fasolo. Caught red hot holding the ball. Fasolo, good tackle. Goes out short to Pendlebury, who marks at halfback. 103-79, a 24-point lead to the Hawks. Pendlebury, leading possession winner for the Pies, coming up for number 24. The leader for Hawthorn is Sewell with 24.
Off it goes for Solo, kick forward to the middle. Gibson gets a fingertip in there to nudge it away. Cloker's outnumbered. Murphy uses it cleverly at the back. Shields with the kick up beyond halfway. Rioli was the hope. There were plenty against him. Reid got his hands to it, but at the drop, Roughhead hand passed it forward. It was blocked though. Clever stuff from Reid. It will still come the Hawks' way. Gunston gets it. Franklin gets rid of Tarrant. Didn't get there to take the mark. Tarrant pats it clear. Needs support and gets it. Arriving was side bottom. He used for Solo. Reid's kick was wonky on the way out. Getting a fingertip to it was Ellis. Beams working on the spot with Pendlebury. They're all standing still virtually. Beams kicks beyond halfway and he just coughed it up. He's kicked it straight to Gibson.
I think they're looking a bit tighter now. I've made this comment before. I think they are looking a bit fatigued.
Gibson with the hand pass to Murphy. Down the line he goes to half forward. Gunston hands to it but couldn't complete the mark. Reid dives in really hard and gets the ball to the boundary line for a throw-in. Adam White.
Drew, this rain's getting quite heavy. If you're playing golf, you would be going to the bag to get the waterproofs out.
Okay, throw in on the 50. Swan takes possession. Oh, just about throws it out of the pack. It comes to side bottom. He throws it on the boot. Knocked forward for the Hawks. Comes to Burgoyne. Concedes some ground back to Sewell. He sets it up and kicks to full forward. Franklin falls backwards, can't complete the mark, but socked off the ground by Xavier Ellis and gets the goal. He's down. In the act of kicking it, I think his leg met an opponent's leg. Oh, he's up on his feet, but that's a big goal. The margin 30 points.
And it was a great goal. I think Collingwood they're risk adverse at the moment. You've had Pendlebury on the halfback flank, different players, and they don't even look inboard. Thomas and Jolly have been inboard, but they won't look inboard. And, you know, again, your great strength becomes your great weakness. Collingwood do play down the line.
And predictably so.
They do predictable, and that's good when you're taking contested marks and got numbers at the ground level. There has been players calling, they're not looking for it in the midfield, so it's a little bit easier to defend for Hawthorn. They're going to kick a number of goals to get back in this game.
Out of the middle, they get the next clearance. Shields whacks it inside the 50. Franklin trying to claim it from behind. He didn't have the first touch. Down by Tarrant. Falls the way of Tuvey. Hand pass to O'Brien. The Pies survive a tight moment. Kick around the wing. Dawes flew into the pack. Gibson made the spoil. The race at ground level. Mitchell knocked it on. Savage trying to get it back to Mitchell. He'll walk it over the boundary. Adam White.
Jared Xavier Ellis, after that goal, he did hurt his knee that was strapped before the game, so it looks like a bit of an aggravation, and he's really hobbling around at centre half forward.
Maxwell accidentally came rolling across it. A very awkward moment. Bruce working at ground level after the throw in. Couldn't do anything about it. Jolly holds the footy up. The umpire picks out a free kick for high contact going Hawthorn's way.
Well, I don't know why they don't do that. No, it's just because they're Hawthorn free, but that's what they ought to be doing.
Shields uses it quickly. He's gone in the Franklin direction. He took the mark and fed it on. Running into the open goal. Roughhead. They're out by 36 again. And there'll be no stopping them from here. 17-13 to 12-7. We've gone 6 minutes of the final two.
Become a better player, Franklin, in terms of his all-round reading of the play, setting up people in better positions. In his junior years, he would have just stood there, gone back, tried to convince the umpire it was a mark, and then got caught or mucked it up because he was doing the con act. But there he read, understood, and delivered the appropriate response. It was a terrific long hand pass, and it got Roughhead out in the open where he could run on, take a touch on the ground. Might have been the game breaker.
Yeah, goal assist there to Franklin. The bounce in the middle. Ellis has come off the ground injured. Here come the Hawks again as Mitchell gets the hand pass out. And the kick up by Shields, just short of the goal square. Oh, it's cleared in the last line, just in the nick of time by Reid. Outside the 50. Oh, kick by Smith. And an uncontested mark to Hodge down in the forward pocket. And words, Nick Maxwell is losing it here tonight, and it's a 50-metre penalty to Hodge.
And look, and that's a bit sad, because Hodgie, I watched Hodgie, he's gone. He'd walked from the goal line to watch the previous one. He'd walked about 7 or 18 metres out there with his hands on his...
Goal to Hodge, his second.
He's standing there with his hands on his knees, absolutely done. And on the turnover, he comes back, looks up, gets a hell of a surprise that lands in his arms. Terrific play. Didn't move.
It was, and the play of Sam Mitchell to win the ball, quick hands it off to, I think it was Liam Shields, and it goes in. The other young fella that stood out tonight, I think, is young Smith. This is his first final. Or sorry, it's not his first final, but this is his first final as a significant player within the team, and he has made an extremely strong contribution to this team. Great crumb, kick inboard to Hodge. They are a very, very strong team, Hawthorn.
Hawks by 42, back in the middle. Jolly trying to barge his way through. Pendlebury had the footy ripped from him. Mitchell's kick was smothered, fell the way of Sidebottom. Hand pass to Pendlebury on the wing. He works it back to Sidebottom, who's confronted and downed in the tackle of Savage. He worked it forward to the play though. Jolly to Johnson, who's down by Mitchell. The Hawks pressure wins out. Forward they come. Rioli puts it, and Franklin marks it.
I'm glad they've all run to Mitchell in the middle of the ground. Unbelievable to force the turnover, if you like. It was Mitchell's just incessant after the ball, after the man with it, until finally they turned it over. And they've all run 50, 60 metres to let the ex-captain know.
For me, David, he has dominated this game. Not just the ball wins, but the way he uses the ball.
Franklin from centre half forward. He lets fly into the night out, and it's a lovely goal. The lead continues to build. They might belt Collingwood by the end of this. It's 48 points, and they've got the sniff for blood. 19-13 to 12-7. Adam White.
Just more on Sam Mitchell. You see he's got the tape around his head, but also he's got significant tape around his left leg as well. I've said it a number of times, you can pick things up at ground level. The amount of times that Collingwood have bashed him at stoppages because they know how important he is, but he continues to stand up for his football club.
Well, umpire McInerney is down there refereeing the fight between Tarrant and Franklin. The umpire's going to throw the ball up in the middle. It's won by Jolly. It's 4 goals straight to nothing in this last quarter for the Hawks. Mitchell, another clearance. Past Franklin it goes, down towards the pocket. Reid, deliberately out. Absolutely. McInerney knocks him off for that. Free kick to Gunston.
Up until 6 weeks ago, that'd be okay.
Well, Hawthorn are the highest scoring team in the competition. They kicked 4 in the first quarter, 5 in the second, 6 in the third. They could be kicking 7 in the last, the way this is going, or more. They've kicked 4-0 so far. Gunston from the boundary line, 35 out. Tries to hook it back. Across the face of goal. Oh, it almost sits here for Ellis. Still in the field of play. Now a strong tackle by Tuvey, gets the ball out.
Can I just say, Drew, Hawthorn have had 11 goal kickers. 11 different goal kickers, and that's one of their great strengths.
At the throw-in, Jolly got his hand to it, almost through was Rioli. In the pack is Shields. His kick didn't go anywhere. He followed up off to Sewell. Didn't get any elevation on the kick, so the scramble over the loose footy continues. Bruce with a hand pass. Fed out by Ellis, who'll go and get it back. He's got 2 tackling him by the time he did.
Jared, I actually need Sewell or Mitchell to kick a goal so I can boast all that up to 12 different goal kickers.
You're nominating both of them, or
well, they can kick a goal.
Which order? You've actually predicted everything else tonight.
They're both around it. Roughhead knocks it to the back of the pack. Savage gets hold of it. Hand pass to Mitchell. Now to Sewell. Sewell couldn't get around Shaw. He's dispossessed. Swan out of the back line. Offloaded by Franklin as he got rid of it. Knocked forward by Sinclair up the cloak. Hand pass forward and the play to nobody. And Birchall runs onto the loose footy.
Well, Collingwood haven't got a forward line, so if this keeps up, they'll be lucky to kick a goal in this last quarter. Hawthorn kick it up to their attacking 50. Spills off hands and comes to Swan. Good pass, finds Beams.
Got to take a deep breath, Collingwood.
Down the line, Beams with his kick, well directed, and the mark's been taken by Fasolo, just behind the wing. Southern stand side.
Why do I say that? Because they've got to come up again in a week's time. Hawthorn can have the recovery that Collingwood can't. This will take an enormous amount out of the Collingwood team.
That's a great point.
And they just, I would just be playing out the game. Stupid thing to say, isn't it? But that's what I'd be doing. Slow it down, keep the energy, stop the bruising.
Gee, there's a few successive kicks and marks here by Collingwood. Johnson goes out wide, but the chain comes unstuck because the ball was too wide. And diving in there, Swan, close to the boundary line, couldn't complete the mark and spills it over the boundary line. There might have been about 6 kicks and marks in a row to Collingwood prior to that. They hadn't advanced the ball very far. And now it comes to side bottom. Centering ball. And Shaw leaps in and protects the ball. Takes the mark. Kicks to full forward. Diving forward is Cloak. And he gets the free kick rather than the mark against Schoenmakers. Schoenmakers moved back to only about 25 metres from goal. Crowd saw the replay, not happy. Interesting that this crowd, it's a Hawthorn home game, and it sounds like Hawthorn have far more supporters here than Collingwood. And over history, that wouldn't have happened too many times. Cloak for goal, kicks it. Their first goal in this last quarter, and Cloak's now got 5.
And that's a great effort. And Crackers kicked 3 and Cloak's kicked 5, and that's a worry.
And the interesting thing is that we might see them again because Collingwood will play, I guess, the winner of West Coast and North Melbourne. If they were to win that, they would get Hawthorn again in the preliminary final. I hope I've read that correctly, unless there's a swap over. No, there's a swap over. There's a swap over, so they won't. I'm not very smart, am I?
No, they can only play again in a grand final.
Yeah, sorry, Terry.
But
I can't follow the black lines on this bit of paper.
Yeah, just the kicking out of defence for Collingwood, the different avenues to goal. And at the end of the day, their number one blue chip card, Pendlebury and Swan, have been towed up by Searle and Mitchell, in my opinion. Jolly's done his best.
Hawks by 42, thrown up. Hale down to Mitchell, who handed it off to Sewell. Hand pass to Shields on the clean break. Delivers from a rough head, playing from behind. Reid made the spoil. Ellis onto the crumb. Comes back inboard. Hand pass to Roughhead. Back to Ellis. They're going round in a circle. Clever by Savage. Down to Sewell. Couldn't find the way. Shields might. He snaps on the left and misses.
There were 3 volleyball bunts, weren't there, by Hawthorn players to teammates in good position.
Yeah, it looks like you're showing off, but it's not that. No. The pressure's there. You've got to open the game up and get it out to a teammate.
Johnson to himself and now kicks outside the 50. Jolly drops a mark and gets a whack across the top of the nose. It spills to Mitchell. Short pass by him. Mark dropped by Bruce. Tidied up here by Savage. And now Smith in the middle. But his kick marked in defence by Swan for Collingwood, who runs out of defence. Kick up towards centre wing. Hawthorn have the numbers 2-1. Schoenmakers with Birchall. Birchall gets it going forward to his own advantage. Gets the slippery ball at his feet. In he comes to Shields. Short pass. And Ellis takes the mark. Front edge of the centre square. All Hawthorn, 128-85. X-Man, Xavier Ellis, kicks to full forward. Hale in front. A punch by Jolly. Chance for Hawthorn. He hasn't cleared the area, Jolly. Pendlebury works it across to Thomas and Collingwood out of defence.
Well done. Great play.
Swan to side bottom to Sinclair, who got around the tackle of Birchall. It was a neat little manoeuvre. Uses it short for Cracker. He'll dab it up to the wing to Fasolo. Hugging the boundary on the southern side. Wellingham's the link, and he takes the mark. A 2-grabber against the boundary. Fasolo still working for him laterally. And really nothing on down the field. So this is going to have to be a hoping kick or a backward kick. And he gives away 40 metres on the kick to Thomas. Stays out the far side for side bottom. And Thomas again. So they chip it around at the back. Now the break. Through the middle for Swan. Didn't give it forward. Instead he's kicked it backward to Reid. And they've brought themselves over to the broadcast side. And that kick's not great for Didak. Kicking mark low down. Hand pass for Reid with Franklin bearing down. On to Didak. Gets away from Smith. Kicks beyond halfway. Hodge went with the flight. Got a tip in there. Knocked it away from Dawes. Dawes does get it though from Blair. High inside the 50. Cloak sets himself. Gibson made the spoil. Hawks with the numbers at the drop. Shields with a hand pass. Great move from Suckling. On to Savage. Kicks a high ball to half forward. Franklin from behind. He'll work his man underneath. Didn't mark. Darts back through. Hasn't got it. Paddled it forward. There it ends because Thomas is onto it for the Pies.
Yeah, the paddle from Buddy was a bit too fierce for Ellis. Ball comes outside the 50. Hawthorn still contesting like it's a point the difference, but they've lost it, and the ball comes out to Sidebottom, who has a bounce and gets to the wing. The kick not great, but skims off the wet ground to Sinclair. He just hoists it high, just a kick and hope. That's a shocker. Schoenmaker's underneath the ball. Comes through to the back. Whistle's gone. It's going to be a Hawthorn free kick. Schoenmaker's was helped under the ball.
Look, I think fatigue's really taking hold of this game now, David. It's getting very messy with the disposal and the spread.
Suckling dives and marks at half-back. Short pass to Burgoyne. 17 and a half minutes gone in the last quarter. Burgoyne further across the half-back line to Mitchell. Been a hero today. Bandaged around the head. He has had 26 disposals, 27 now, 17 of them contested, 12 clearances. Ball comes out to Murphy. Tom Murphy just behind the wing, broadcast side, kicks up towards half forward. Hodge works his man under the ball. It comes through to Shaw of Collingwood. Hand pass back to Thomas. Evades a tackle. Hand pass to Reid. Off to Shaw. Kick might have been partly smothered. Doesn't go very far. Shields in there with a chance for the Hawks. He gouges it out. Pendlebury there. Somehow finds for Solo to Didak, who's the sub. Spins out of a would-be tackle and gets it to Dawes.
Now up to O'Brien. He'll kick the Pies up to the 50. They haven't been here often in this term. Gibson makes the spoil on Wellingham. Falls the way of Cloak. He's going to hook this back to the teeth of goal and see if Sinclair can mark against Birchall. He can't. Crackers the crummer. Sidesteps. Got tripped. Got it to his boot. Kicked the goal. Cracker has 4. The Pies at 37 points, the wrong side of it though.
Sorry, Jeremy. Which in the context of the game is a remarkable performance, I reckon, Cracker. I don't think he's giving them what they want and need on the way out. Sinclair sadly hasn't been able to do it either being a possession winner or a goal kicker or a chaser down on the way out. That to me is a bit sad that they've been let down. Where at the other end, Fiopolo, Rioli, Bruce down at the other end, they've been lightning into the contest, lightning in the chase out and pressure on the way out, and they've also been able to kick goals.
Ball back in the centre, a little bit of wet surface. The umpire throws it up. Hale wins in the ruck. Little hand pass comes out to Mitchell. The pass, Franklin juggles and marks. Tarrant, a cigarette paper behind him. Finished up all over him. Terrific contested mark. And another break out of the middle by Mitchell.
It was classic Hawthorn play. Sewell takes the ball under pressure. Quick hands it off to Mitchell. I mean, how many times have they done that together?
True.
And then he just shoots a rocket into Buddy Franklin and gave Chris Tarrant no chance of spoiling the ball.
A bit hard to say. I mean, Tarrant's had the ball 3 times. This will be, I guess, Franklin's about 16th or 17th possession, and he's going to end up with, maybe 3 or 4 goals.
He's got 3 now. This for number 4. In front, 49 out. City end. They like it. He likes it.
I mean, he'd be probably Rioli and he are the 2 that you'd least like to cop, I reckon, up or back. And what Franklin's done, as you suggested earlier, he got on his bike after about a quarter and a bit and drove himself hard with the athleticism he's got himself into play, got himself a little bit free of Tarrant. And I think that was very helpful in the context of the game. I don't know whether that was his initiative or a coach direction.
And the dialogue continues between Franklin and Tarrant as it has done all night. 43 points Hawthorn's lead. We're now into time on of the final 2. The centre clearances are 18-12 Hawthorn's way, but the Pies get this one. Straight down to Swan. Kick up inside the 50. Dawes was coming out. Couldn't do much with it. Gibson gathers it off the slippery turf and sends the Hawks beyond halfway. Gunston is chasing a ball that rolls ever further away from him and out of bounds.
We should give Gibson's back to pretty near his best.
Oh, his first quarter was outstanding, arguably the best on the ground. Him and Hodge were the two best in the first quarter, I thought.
From the throw-in, Hawthorn's side of the middle. Jolly tapped it down to the front. Blair extricated himself, but his hand pass didn't go far. Maxwell fends off, gets a kick around the wing. Birchall attacked it hard, trapped it. Hand pass to Sewell, works it on to Murphy. Close confines to Suckling. Forward of the play, but he gave it up to Beams. And the Pies work it around. Sidebottom and Sinclair. Kick to halfway. Gibson getting in front of Cloak. Didn't quite mark and no free kick. Punched away and out of play.
But David, we spoke strongly before the game about the vulnerabilities of Guerra and Lewis and Young, and I mean the depth this Hawthorn squad has got is quite remarkable.
And they win the ball from the stoppage. Suckling's kick towards half forward, pretty open forward line, but it's knocked down by the Collingwood defence. Comes to Shaw, off to Didak. He pokes a pass short of half forward. Dawes gets the Bronx cheers as he marks inside the centre square. He kicks long to full forward. Cloak there again, hands to it, and he gets it back on the juggle and takes the mark. 20 out right in front.
That is a great mark, David, because this ball is not coming in lace out. It is long bombs to Clokey, and he just manufactures great marks.
Well, you're right, Chris. I mean, he didn't mark it above his head, lost control, but on the zenith, if you like, and then had to pitch himself forward to recover it. A terrific mate. Been a good play. I'm crooked on that Dawes jinx doing there. But Dawes has been a capable player tonight, in my opinion.
This for number 6 for Travis Cloak.
I think what's sad, Drew, is that had you lined it up at the start of the game, you said, well, Cloak will kick 6 tonight, we would have said
Collingwood a big chance.
Well, Collingwood a big chance. That they'd either win it or just get beaten. He's kicked 6 and they're not being annihilated, but they certainly have their pants pulled down.
Well, there's 34 shots at goal. Yeah. And that's a significant amount of shots at goal.
It is,
But just think about the disposal into Cloak compared to Franklin when Mitchell and Sorioli put those bullets in front that were undefendable. Whereas Shoemaker's got a good look at that and Cloak was just too good.
That's 11 goals in 2 weeks. Does he get 5 years for that, or is he still only getting 4?
6 years.
6 years?
If he's doing that in his 5th year, I'm happy for him to get it. He's got to go on the performance-based contract.
Swan kicks it off the ground out of the middle and he trundles on after it. He tackles Savage, but it's coming back the other way. Hodge, good hand pass to Shields, who's had a stack of it in the final term. Hand pass back to Hodge. He guides it up to the 50. It was a well-weighted ball for Gunston. There's an umpire involved here somewhere. The player's been called to a halt. What have we got going on the wing?
Well, you can't stop the play.
They did stop the play. Franklin pulls it out of there, takes a shot at goal and misses.
I'll tell you what, it will be interesting, some of the footage behind the ball in this game.
Yep. There could be some reports out of it. And
well, there already is some, isn't it?
Yeah. And what Tarrant's been doing just reminds me a little bit of Alistair Lynch in his last game in a grand final, where he threw care to the wind, and Tarrant's pretty much done that tonight and nearly sucked Franklin in.
Well, it must be Hawthorn people who are doing Dawes, because that's ridiculous.
Now Dawes slides in and takes a mark here. Let me see. 17 possessions, 3 marks. That's not a bad sort of a game, is it?
Terrible kick.
Hawthorn have it. Suckling, hand pass back to Mitchell. Pokes a beautiful pass. You'd like to be on the end of some of his kicks. Gunston, that's an awful kick. Off the side of the boot, doesn't even reach the 50. Johnson loses it in a tackle. Hawthorn still going hard, like it's a tight game. It was a high tackle laid, and it's going to be a Collingwood free kick to Pendlebury. He didn't like the treatment he got.
Right, he missed the first one, gave the second one to Pendlebury. The bad round the neck to his teammate.
Pendlebury. Beams dropped it, so it didn't pan out at all. It was an ordinary looking kick. Beams got there, but he couldn't hang on, and it sort of fell away and rolled out of play.
One thing Hawthorn have been outstanding at is the squeeze. Their transition from attack to defend has been as good as I've seen them this year, and we've seen them a lot this year.
Hawks by 38. Beams gets it from the throw in. Hand pass to Swan. Forward of the play to Blair, he shares it on with Pendlebury, running the boundary. He'll put it onto the left boot and kick in the Wellingham direction. Gibson will arrive and yet again make the spoil and get it out of play.
Well, it was so, it might be that's the set play. Chris, they're trying to get over the line for a throw in, I'm not sure, but killed the bloke on the end of the ball.
It's a quick throw in. Hale got there first, down to Smith, off to Mitchell, and in there Gibson had a touch. Birchall with the kick forward. Hard out was Roughhead to make the spoil. Puopolo kicked it up and down on the spot. It won't be 15. Tuvey claimed the fair catch, had to get rid of it in a hurry. Off to O'Brien, who darts clear. Into the middle with his kick to Fasolo,
who hasn't done enough.
Close on the bench at the moment. So there's no key target to go to. He'll drag it out the broadcast side, and Hale saw it coming. Makes the interception. Hand pass to Savage. Deep inside the Hawks 50. Roughhead sets himself. Edges his man Reid underneath. A push.
Stupid.
I bet you Nathan Buckley comments on the turnovers, David, after the game.
Yeah,
I mean, Collingwood have made more turnovers than I've seen them make in recent years.
I wonder what it's like when you've played all year, you've had pre-season, and you come to the stage and all of a sudden you realise, hang on, we can't win this. And I reckon they must be coming to the realisation they can't win, because if they fight their way back to a grand final and meet Hawthorn again, can't see them beating them. Ball comes over the wing. Side bottom tries hard, works it back, and a kick forward comes to Beam. Still inside the centre square. He's got players forward. He's got Jolly screaming for the ball. The kick goes halfway to Jolly, and Gibson leaves Jolly and marks, and Jolly's got his arms asunder saying, mate, here I am, give it to me. Comes up the ground. Savage goes wide. The mark to Sewell. He's having a nice battle with Mitchell for leading possession winner for the Hawks. Sewell takes the lead 32-31. The kick to Roughhead on the 50. Couldn't quite take the mark. Reid grabs it.
It's been great.
Pies working around in defence. O'Brien to Maxwell, who's going to have his issues during the week. Kicks beyond halfway over the head of Jolly. Gibson beats him back to it. He's mopped up everything. Hand pass to Shields. Jolly dragged Gibson down. They're going to wrestle at the end, just as they wrestled at the start. It's been ill-tempered, but it's the Hawks who continue to claim all the favours at the business end of the season. They do Collingwood in by 38 points.
Pendlebury and Jolly having a real argument about Jolly wants to get off, and Pendlebury was saying you've got a responsibility to come out here, son. That was interesting. Very interesting dialogue there between Adam. I know it was Adam on top of that down there. He might have already gone in, but gee, that was a very interesting little discourse. Is that the word? Discussion.
It's coming unstuck for Collingwood at the wrong end of the season. Their form no better tonight than it has looked. For all the effort and all the aggro that they put into it, they're a long way the wrong side of it. Hawthorn 20-15, 135 to Collingwood 15-7, 97. The lead built throughout the night from 15 to 18 to 24 and 38 at the end in front of 85,625. Hawthorn direct access to the preliminary final. Collingwood will have to go the long way. They'll be back next week in the semi-finals. The goal kickers, Franklin booted 4 for the winners, and there were 2 each to Hodge, Gunston, Hale, Savage, Brust and Rioli, with singles to Roughhead, Ellis, Smith and Puopolo. For Collingwood, Cloak booted 6 and Cracker kicked 4, 2 for Wellingham and 1 each to Sinclair, Dawes and Shaw. It's the Hawks by 38.
And that's the third time this year the Hawks have pumped the Pies. It's all going south for Collingwood by the looks of it.
David Parker.
Well, Sharon, we can sit back and now and pontificate about our predictions before the game, but what Collingwood delivered essentially was a plan to unsettle in a physical way. I'm not sure whether they have the capacity to, engineer something like that and carry it out. I must admit, I thought this is silly because it will work against them in terms of it won't affect Hawthorn. I thought it did a bit. It won't. It will take the energy away they need to actually win ball and use it and do the running required. But when you consider what we knew and what we predicted before the game in terms of the difference in talent, the difference in form, the difference in particularly the form of the midfield players on both sides, probably was, and I don't have to see Chris, what I think if I'd been Bucks, probably would have got about it in the same way. I probably would have said, well, if we just take them on in a pure game of football, then we're probably going to not win. We might get within 3 or 4 goals and we're certainly not going to win. But the one thing that we might be able to deliver that Hawthorn won't expect without all over the ground. Little, big, medium, talls, front, back, they were into it from the word go. Tarrant was the only one who kept it going, I think, for the 4 quarters. But it was the way that you probably go about it.
I'll tell you what's a good sign. Brendan Whitecross is out there, knee bandaged, but he hasn't got crutches. He's got a broad grin. Al Clarkson's out there amongst the players with a broad grin as well. It's all looking pretty good for Hawthorn.
Yeah, with those stingers, though, if you've had one, Chris has had about 10 of them. So you can get the body reacts in a funny way where it doesn't sort of let you know how bad it is. You feel as though it's holding together when it's actually not. So it'll be interesting to see what comes. But from Hawthorn's point of view, the 2 kids we talked about, the 2 replacements in Ellis and Savage. And Ellis looked very sore at the end of the game. Young Savage dived in, skinny little kid, gets after it and competed extremely well. I didn't think they missed too much from his. Dawes, I keep arguing the point. I think Dawes, I don't know what he had in the finish. What did he have in terms of...
He had 20 possessions.
He's had 20 possessions.
Which is a good game for a key forward.
He's had 13 uncontested, I must admit. He's taken marks, he's taken 3 uncontested and 3... I mean, for a bloke who was on the end of some very poor form, his confidence would have been well down. They were loath to play him. Don't turn around and blame Dawes for what didn't happen for Collingwood tonight. Their 2 key forwards had a lot of pressure on them. Both stood up and delivered. It was a lot of other elements, Chris, that you'll probably deliver to us that cost them any chance of winning the game.
So the Hawks are heading down into their rooms with the song still playing throughout the stadium. 38-point winners over the Pies. They've got the week off and all the advantages to come. Adam White.
It was Ben Stratton that led them in. I must say, not overly excited. Still plenty of work to do. 2 more finals need to be won for Hawthorn to be premiers. Sam Mitchell coming in, having a chat to Clarko, limping in, I think would be the apt description, as they all link around now. And Josh Gibson is one of the last to join the circle. Here they go. A little bit more enthusiasm with that song. So Hawthorn now get the week off. We're going to be chatting to Sam Mitchell very shortly. Really looking forward to catching up with someone that was extremely courageous for his team tonight.
Well, the last time they won the minor premiership, 1989, 23 years ago, they went on and won the flag. They've got a qualifying final under their belt this time. Oh, they're even shorter, I reckon, for flag favouritism.
Well, if you read the black lines I've been trying to... I like dotted lines. I can follow those easier than straight ones.
Can you sing the song for it?
Geelong play Fremantle, obviously, tomorrow at this stadium, isn't it? At the MCG. I'm right about that.
Yep.
And the winner of that will cop Hawthorn, I guess, in the preliminary final in 2 weeks' time. Well, that's correct.
Well, they'll have to go through either Sydney or Adelaide.
Yeah, so, and they'd be happy, I think Hawthorn, as an outcome, they'd be happy with that draw. That won't frighten them.
Well, Hawthorn's going to whack everyone in this final series unless they hit Geelong, in my opinion.
I was waiting for that response. Yeah, I was waiting for that response.
I hope they do have to go through Geelong to win it.
And they will.
Yeah, because in recent seasons, Geelong somehow can concede a lead to Hawthorn and somehow run them down every time.
Doesn't make any sense, and it has to be the mystical forces of the curse at play. But
don't underestimate Fremantle against Geelong. We beat Geelong down at Skilled Stadium, David.
That's true.
Anything can happen, but this Hawthorn team looks awesome. They've got the X factor, the depth, the different methods of scoring. They've got players out that are going to come back in. They've got a dominant inside midfield. They've got phenomenal forwards. How would you go about tearing Hawthorn apart, David?
Well, because and Rioli, some of their part, but they'd all played their part. Rioli was good without being dominant. So was Birchall. Hale, I think, it was a manful sort of display, underperforming directly against Jolly, but was pretty good.
But can I just jump in on Burgoyne? I thought Burgoyne and Shields, who had 3 average quarters, were quite dominant in the last.
Yep.
And that's another great weapon they have, that they can share the load. Liam Shields statistically comes up really strongly, but it was only a second half contribution.
he had 15 in the last quarter, 9 and 6.
Absolutely.
That's unbelievable, isn't it? And he wins it when he has to. He's a good insider. Well, that says he.
He's a fierce competitor.
He is a fierce competitor. In the finish, what did he have? Inside and outside, do it for quicker than I can. Shields 14 contested possessions.
Just let me tidy up here for News Radio. We're about to depart. Hawthorn 2015 135 defeating Collingwood 15-7-97. The Hawks to the prelim. The Pies will play next Friday night. So probably next Saturday. Probably mucked that up really for News Radio. Probably next Saturday, because I suspect West Coast West Coast and North can't be backing up from Sunday to Friday. Yep. So it'll be Saturday night for the Pies.
That would be unfair.
Gee, you would hope that Hawthorn would escape with no suspensions out of tonight, but there might be a lot of interesting videotape taken from behind the goals.
It was quite violent off the ball for modern day football.
Yes, absolutely.
Which, on one hand, shows Collingwood. You could mount an argument that Collingwood almost went in with a
predetermined.
Well, they've got a predetermined plan, but it shows their lack of confidence in actually beating this team, because they've got to go to extreme to unbalance them.
That was the point I was trying to make.
Yeah.
Collingwood have got the very real problem that Maxwell will be suspended. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And they'll look at Tarrant from beginning to end, and to be honest, they're bound to find something. I don't think you probably have to look too far to find something that was either borderline. If they were to lose Maxwell and Tarrant heading in against, say it was West Coast with the land of the Giants they have up forward.
And Brown struggling was subbed out of it, wasn't he?
He was subbed out,
but he struggled for not just 1 week, for about 5 weeks. So
the price out of this could
he was subbed out in the third quarter, Brown, and only had 5 touches.
Yeah.
And in defence of Collingwood, they've lost some significant players, and arguably the most improved player in the AFL at the time of doing his knee was Lachlan Keith down in defence. He's going to be a terrific player for Collingwood. But they've tried to shuffle things around with Heathshaw starting forward, and, it's just not settled, is it? And you want to be settled going into a campaign to build some resilience.
Oh, you're right, because they're key players in the side. Thomas has struggled for whatever reason. He didn't make the impact that he needed to make. Shaw, you talked about, played out of position, didn't? And Maxwell and O'Brien were well down.
Let's head into the Hawks rooms with Adam White.
Thanks for that, Jared. I've got Sam Mitchell. I know that Parko's very keen to catch up with Sam. But first of all, Sam, before I let Parko go, what's the overriding emotion when you get through to a preliminary final? Is it relief? Is it really excitement? What would you describe it?
There's probably a lot of different emotions going on at the moment. I think first and foremost you've got to feel for the guys that are gone down. Particularly Whitey tonight, looks like he's hurt his knee fairly seriously. So I have to wait and see what that is, but it doesn't look good. So feel for him, feel for Renkuera, but by the same token, you've got something pretty exciting coming up, and And Jordan Lewis, should have seen a look on his face at half time. He's like, you blokes better bloody win. So hopefully he'll be back for the next one. So, a lot of different things, but, we've got a bit of time to revive and recover and get ready for the game in 2 weeks.
I reckon you'll need it, you particularly, but there was a few of the other boys as well. I mean, you were bashed at times in that first 20 minutes of footy tonight with some of the toughest footy I've ever seen.
Yeah, I was really hoping I could go through my whole career without having to wear one of those stupid head wrap things. I was pleading with the doctor not to give me one, and then they made me put it on again at half time. So unfortunately I've had to join the crew that has to wear one of those stupid headbands.
the execution of your game plan, though, under the pressure of finals, because it was so intense early, to get through that and be able to play your style of footy, kick plenty of goals, but stop Collingwood as well, must be particularly pleasing.
Yeah, it was. We probably a bit of a funny game. You know, it was very, very hot and intense, and when we used the ball with a little bit more composure, we ended up, you know, even if first 2 or 3 possessions looked good, the pressure came onto us eventually, and you know, they were able to put enough pressure on to make us turn it over, and they ended up scoring. So you know, I think when we were under a lot of pressure, you know, we were able to put them under pressure with our ball as well. So I think that was the way the game turned out, is both teams played a little bit better when there was less space, which is a strange way to play a game of footy, but I guess in finals it's to be expected a little bit.
I know you're a proud man tonight, Parko, so go for it.
Sorry, Sandra, putting you under pressure like that. I don't mean to do that. Was it as hot, as physical, as brutal as we thought it was for the first, probably most of the first quarter? Did you sense and feel that was just another game, and the sort of stuff that was going on is a regular occurrence?
I think what happens in a lot of games of footy is that it's either very, very physical or it's a very, very heavy running game. You know, when you play against Sydney, it's a very, very heavy physicality game. When you play against other sides, you know, it's much more running, and probably the thing about tonight is it was impact, but then both teams are running really hard as well, and when you put them both together, it makes big impacts, and it makes them often. So that's why probably it was hot, because blokes were hitting each other not only often but hard as well.
So you would expect, as a result of that, how you feel now, Collingwood would be feeling equally as bad or worse. To come up again in 6 or 7 days' time won't be an easy thing for them.
Yeah, but they're going to have an extra day over whoever they play,
yes,
I suppose. So I think that, you know, they probably used to playing like that. They play very physical brand of footy. Played them 3 times this year, and all 3 of those games have been very physical. So I think you do get accustomed to it. So they've played some pretty solid footy tonight, but I'd say they would probably recover fairly well. We get looked after pretty well with all the physios and massage and all that stuff that goes into AFL footy these days. So you know, I wouldn't say they'll be sorer than whoever they play against next week.
And the good thing, Sam, was that the inclusions that might have been in name at least not as good. Ellis coming in, Suckling doing the no, it was not Suckling, but Savage, yeah, Savage doing a good job, and Murph as well. So the team lost very little in structure and method.
Yeah, I guess we you know, lose a soldier, replace him with another one is one of Clarko's favourite sayings, and you know, we lost some pretty significant players out of last week's game. You lose Clinton Young, who was probably one of our best players last week. Jordan Lewis has obviously been excellent for us all year, and Brent Guerra. So, you know, 3 pretty significant players, and the contribution that those 3 guys coming in made, especially, you know, Sav, who probably thought he was going to be the sub, and he only found out, you know, sort of the day before the game with Jordan going down. So he only found out he was playing at all, and then he was the sub, and then all of a sudden he's on half of the first quarter. So for him to come on and have an impact is pretty important for us. And having said that, we're going to have to find another one probably, because Whitey, you know, maybe some of those guys will recover and be right to play in the next game, but you know, we've probably lost Whitey now. So,
Sam, Darren Jolly had 49 hit-outs. I mean, he dominated the hit-outs. Do you go in kind of planning to shark him, or is that plan B and you make the adjustment during the game, or how do you work your way through that?
I had no idea that he was that dominant in the ruck, to be honest.
Well, he kept hitting it to you, so I thought you would have worked it out, Sam.
Yeah, I think our ruckmen are really good at, you know, the stat of hit-outs is a little bit misguided, because I think what our ruckmen do pretty well is limit where the opposition can hit it. You know, I think our ruckman did really well. You know, he probably wanted to hit it to different spots that he had to because of the way our ruckman set up, and I think the way that Haley and Ruffy has played